Hey everybody, happy Sunday, or I guess Monday when you're listening to this. Welcome to stage 3 of the Stage Clear podcast featuring me, Tim, you're my co-host here, James. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good, brother. Doing good, man.
That's
I
awesome.
can't believe we're already on episode 3.
Yeah, no, these are kind of flying by a little bit.
Seriously, man. Seriously,
We were
seriously.
talking a little bit before about how it's just nice to have scheduled talks with each other, like, because we would keep up sometimes, but it'd always be like months at a time, and then we talk, and then we just unload all this knowledge. But like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool to get into it each week.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's actually it feels very healthy. Like we should have been doing this already.
That's fair. Well, better late than never.
Yeah,
And
there you go. Exactly. I like that mindset. I like
yeah,
that.
I don't know if you've gotten some of this response, but I've definitely gotten some response from some people in the community that, at least here in Macomb, where I've walked around and talked to people. They're liking the content, they're liking what we're doing, like the message that's being said. So yeah, that's positive. Don't always
Yeah,
see those comments in YouTube, so it's good to like hear them. When you're talking to people.
it's so funny you bring that up because even with my normal Facebook material, I sometimes I would post things and no one would say anything, and then it wasn't until I made it to church or I'm talking to a friend or I'm talking, and then they'll make have all this stuff they want to talk about regarding what I wrote, and I'm thinking like, why didn't you comment? So I don't know. It's interesting because, and I think maybe I do it as well, but yeah, sometimes people don't feel I don't know the desire or
Compelled
need.
to kind of put it out there.
Yeah. And it's very odd because sometimes it's important stuff to them, but yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe
Well,
we need to encourage
yeah,
people more.
it
I
may
don't
be.
know.
I think that is, for everybody. If you guys have anything to say, we'd love to hear from you. Just hit us up
Please,
on our social
please.
medias or on the comments of this YouTube. All the links are down below for all of that. It's kind of specific and spread out, so feel free to hit us up
Yeah,
there. Um,
yeah. Whether you agree or disagree, yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm cool
Absolutely,
with
and
that.
that's the thing too. Like, a video just went up today about the clip from last week where we talk about sharing messages and the importance of kind of standing up for what you believe in, despite what other people might think or your own fears or insecurities, and not just with religion, but a lot of other topics. So that's super
Mm.
relevant, and it takes courage to do that. Uh,
Yeah,
Whatever the message is or whatever you do, and I think especially when we're coming at a standpoint where we have stances, we're not on the fence on certain uh, debates or whatnot. So I'm sure people agree or disagree, and we might even have some other people on the opposite end of the spectrum. We'd love to have people to talk to, even on the podcast sometimes. So maybe we'll start
yeah,
reaching out for that.
yeah. That'd be awesome. I'd be definitely open to that. That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess we can just kind of get right into it. How was your week, James?
Yeah. Definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. I feel like I had just a few events that stood out to me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say. Yeah, definitely one was regarding my job. I feel like the soccer sports job that I have, working with kids and teaching them, instructing them. I feel like the job itself, it pays fairly well. I feel like I love the reputation it has, but I also noticed that it's becoming harder to actually maintain new hires. It's almost like uh, the average person nowadays within the last week or two, I mean, a year or two, that joins our job, it seems like they're already out the door within 3 to 6 months, and I suspect that the company itself is not um, really keeping in mind that, we can't kind of offer a lot of, I mean, I think there's different elements that we need to work on as a company. And to be honest with you, I'm actually debating on writing an email. So please, anyone out there, please pray for me regarding that. But yeah, I just think that one of the issues we have amongst others is sometimes we don't really properly train someone, and then the company gives them a lot to handle, a lot to manage and lead, and yeah, I don't think it's very wise to do that until someone is truly ready. And I think for some personalities that works out, but for others, you really just kind of discourage a person when you kind of
Yeah, well, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, and that's prevalent in a lot more businesses, not just interactive ones like yours. Any business that has like a what's it called not a workshop, but a not factory. What is it called? The word's slipping me
like
right
like
now.
like in
Uh,
Yeah, you're talking about like
where they move boxes,
yeah,
shipping,
yeah, yeah, like physical kind of.
warehouse. Thank you, wife.
Okay,
Shout
there you
out,
go.
wife behind there.
Your
Uh,
helpmate. There you go. Your
yeah.
helpmate.
So yeah, if there's a warehouse, especially like all the OSHA stuff that you need to know, there's a lot of time you need to take to teach people, teach new employees the what to do and how to properly go about the job. And there's a lot of times not the time to do that, so they're kind of rushed through because they need workers. This is found especially in like the post office and other jobs of that nature. So it's not just there. It's kind of all over the place. A lot of businesses are seemed like after you get past the face level, when you dig deeper into their workings, it's kind of like everything's duct taped together.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. I love that. Yeah, I love that like metaphor. And it's sad because I'm one of the senior coaches for this job, so often the new hires are sent to me, and I am one of the people that begin to train them. But I may just have them once or twice a week, or less than that. And yeah, it just seems like the company. I remember like when I first started almost 10 years ago at this specific company. On average, it took about 3 or 4 months before they allowed someone to actually transition from assisting to actually leading, and having equipment, having the responsibility of leading a class. And now, on average, it seems like it's like no more than a month, and they're already like arranging to give the person equipment. And it's like, hey, this is your site, this is your, and for some personalities, people can jump in and just do it. But I'm seeing that there's a lot of people that they're not ready, but the company is like so, like you mentioned, they're so anxious to have more people lead. They're just kind of like throwing people in, and yeah, I think that's kind of counterproductive.
Do you think COVID has had anything to do with that?
I do, but it's not in regards to like illnesses or things like that, or
As
someone
far as like people leaving the work, or like finding a lack of people that want to work in that job.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I was gonna say that one of the administrators actually talked to me some months ago, and yeah, that was her theory. Her theory was that some people are still on unemployment, or they just kind of at the bare minimum they want to give the impression that they're working. Other people, they know that if things don't work out, they can just go back to unemployment, like they don't really care to work. And in some
Yeah.
cases people are making more money in that way than actually
Well,
you know
that's interesting because at the start of the pandemic, I had just started a security job, and I was getting kind of a little bit above minimum wage
I
there.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was working, and I was making some money, but I heard from all my friends that were in college that had to like stop their jobs. They were just getting unemployment checks, and they had all summer, and they were getting paid more than I was, and they were just chilling, doing whatever all summer. And I was like going to work all the time and not making that much, and it did suck. It sucked
Yeah,
to be working
yeah,
and hear that I could just be not working and getting a bigger check and getting those
yeah,
stimulus checks anyway.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a little
Yeah,
frustrating.
very well. Yeah, yeah, and and what's really sad, and I was talking to another coach who, he's been a pretty reliable coach as well, but and it's funny because he also, you know, recommended I should go push forward and just kind of write this email, and just kind of, not kind of bombard,
It's a
our
strongly
administrative
worded letter in cursive.
but just kind of let them know, like, hey, there's ramifications for not only going about this the right way in regards to people discouraged to want to work, but even the work that is not being done, like it still has to be distributed with the remaining coaches that are available and are reliable. So I'll give you an example. I was in the city of Venice, California, out here, and I had like typically 4 classes in the morning, and while I was actually teaching, my company called me right in the middle of class. Remind you, I'm a soccer coach, so I have
You're
to
active.
instruct.
You're running around.
Yeah, I am. I'm literally running around, and my phone's ringing. I see the company, and I took the call really quick, and I thought it was going to be a quick call, but they're just letting me know that someone maybe in Culver City, not too far away, didn't show up, and the coach over there, that's taking that person's place needs equipment, and can I have my new assistant who's barely like started, you know, get some of my equipment and take it to the other place, and then they added like a fifth class to my 4 classes because I guess they wanted to make sure that one of the classes still ran, and they kind of changed the time for the the parents, and so it was a really crazy debacle. But yeah, I was just noticing that it just seemed like the work fell on those of us that are trying to diligently work, who
Yeah.
are yeah. So I just thought that was interesting, and that's yeah. I mean that might be another YouTube video right there, talking
It
about that concept,
It might be. That's a good topic, and all these kind of
Yeah.
minimum wage jobs are not. I mean, I'm not sure what your job pays, but what I was thinking when
Mhm.
you were describing that, my good buddy Marcos, super hard worker. We met in high school and through football and everything, and he's always been like a super hard worker. And so
Mhm.
he was working at McDonald's for a little bit, and they loved him there, but they would take advantage of his work ethic because almost
Yeah.
everyone is just kind of there for the paycheck. They're not working super hard, right? And so he would, and they'd keep him after, and they'd have him do all this stuff when other people wouldn't do the
Oh
stuff. And
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
countless
That's true.
examples I can pull from of people that I know
Yeah.
that have been taken advantage in jobs where it's kind of an entry level job, that maybe not the most desirable job. And if they're a hard worker, they have a good work ethic, they're taken advantage of and not necessarily compensated well or promoted well fast enough for their work compared to their other employees. And even in some cases, like I remember one of my good friends works at the post office, and he had recently went there and he was working, and they had the other people, the girls that were working there that couldn't exactly lift all the things that he could. They would just kind of leave the extra work there for him to do because he could do it easier, I guess,
Oh
right?
my goodness.
Yeah.
But
Um,
he ended up with more work,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not fair to anybody. So it's interesting because should have a good work ethic. You should always like work hard in whatever you set your mind to and whatever you put your name under, right? But in this day and age, it's so like popular to like, oh, if you want me to work harder, you should pay me better, right? There's a big struggle
Mhm.
with like no one wants to do entry level jobs because you're paying for that effort is their mindset, right?
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not I'm all about like getting what you're worth, but it's just it's a conflict of interest because the business needs low skilled work to get those bottom lines out, to get their product out, and they can't have the higher ups do that. They have to have somebody do it, right? And but not everyone
Mhm.
wants to do those jobs anymore.
Y- You know, um, of course, with my personal philosophy when it comes to work, it's and I'll read the verse here. I have it in front of me.
Let's go.
It's
Got
Colossians,
scripture for us. Let's go.
but I have Colossians 3:23. And the Apostle Paul writes in this letter. He says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." The idea is to work at the capacity as a Christian. That's if we are Christians, that we're not working to appease the CEO or our supervisor, but to appease God, to work to that standard where God is. And so naturally, like I'm out working everyone, because my standard is I'm a Christian man. Like everything I say and do, I want it to be a reflection of Christ. So because of that, I do get recognized and I do get acknowledged, and it's nice. But I also realize that, yeah, my job is like, oh, hey, Coach James, we know if we send this new higher up to him, he can handle that. So we'll send even two higher ups that he can train both of them at the same time while he's, or they'll give me impossible classes. So it's like 15 children, and it's just me working and maybe half of them don't even care, and they're running around. So it's yeah, it could be kind of going into what you're saying. Yeah, there's I don't know, it can be a little difficult sometimes to be I don't know if I want to say overqualified to some
Yeah.
extent. Like when you have a healthy work ethic, when you take what it is that you do seriously, even if it's flipping burgers, like people notice, and you have some that they will acknowledge, but others just like, oh, okay, well, give him that work because we know he can handle it,
Yeah.
and it can be exhausting, and
The
yeah,
biggest thing
that's something
here
I battle with.
Yeah, the biggest thing here I think would be just don't get taken advantage of. Know your
There you
worth and
go.
all
There you
that. But that works counterintuitively, like we just said, the mindset of they're paying minimum wage, or sometimes like I guess not less than minimum wage, but it's a low wage already, and so they don't
go.
think that it's worth all that effort, right? They can
Oh
try
yeah.
and leverage it and be like, you should pay me more for this, but obviously, like we said, from the business perspective, it's just not feasible all the time. But that's why you see them rushing in new hires, right? They're taking other strategies, whatever we got to do to get more people in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to side with business here. I think everyone should work for themselves, and because
Mhm.
different stories of like people doing careers and working 10 years on a big project or a big sale, they might get a big commission of that, right? But you're
Mhm.
always getting a piece of the pie, instead of if you had worked for yourself and you were successful at it and you were determined and consistent, you would
Yeah.
reap
Yeah.
all the rewards, right?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Very well said.
I'm a little torn, because there's those jobs are necessary, but I know for me at my point in my life, I'm not going to be doing those jobs really, right? If I do have
Yeah.
to get a 9 to 5, I want something with the least responsibility that still meets my bottom line. Like, find out your budget, meet your bottom line, with the least responsibility, so I have time not just for my family, my goals, but like to start working on my own business, so I don't have to rely on anybody else to feed my family, right? I don't
Yeah.
have to rely on
Yeah.
another piece of someone else's pie to essentially, get my money,
Hmm.
And this is
Understandable.
coming, I'm building right now, right? We're in the foundational part of the
Of course.
movie. We ain't got big stats and like big results yet, but it's coming. Wait on it.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. No, but you great make a good point, and it's just intriguing because I've been in many positions where because I take my work seriously, and of course I have to make money, but I'm thinking to myself, I want to reflect God, and because of that, I am putting more of myself in my work, and I am doing a fairly good job. I try to get better at my craft, regardless of what it is, whether it was just working in the preschool setting or whether it was doing the soccer thing. I really take it seriously. I see what works and what doesn't work, and the things that don't work, I'm constantly modifying them, so I am getting better. And then if I have a coworker that they have a strength that I feel like I can use, I will study and I will even ask, you know, how did they develop this technique, or how did they, so I can study that and apply it to what I'm doing, so I can be better. But yeah, the only hard part about that is you will get acknowledged, but you also, it's like, hey, if you're doing a really good job, we'll just toss a little bit more your way because you can handle it. So it's but I do like the idea of knowing your worth. And there are times when I've had to call my company and let them know, hey, I'm not going to be able to take on this or take on that because of yeah, just let them know. So kind of and not in a mean way, but just let them know like this is just not on the table.
Nah, be mean about it. Be upfront. Like, this is the line, and I'm setting it. you know, I am James. Respect my time, right?
Right? Yeah, man, got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. No, that's. It's a weird conundrum we're in, especially with COVID and everything, and
Oh,
how that's
seriously,
affected businesses, and how no one's trying to do those jobs anymore. It's weird,
seriously,
kind of where we're gonna end up.
yeah,
And I was
seriously.
thinking, it was a couple of weeks back, I guess I was thinking this, but it was like a snowstorm outside, and we have a house, or well, we don't, but our apartment complex has someone who keeps the grounds, right? He's an older guy, but he was out there like shoveling clearing the pathways, right? And I
Oh,
was like, dang,
okay.
that kind of, that's a hard job. I wouldn't want to be out there right now. And like, we're pretty high tech. We have robots. Don't we have a thing that, maybe not trying to displace him out of a job, but like, shouldn't we kind of be past some of these menial tasks?
I would agree.
Um,
I would agree.
but that's a huge, but then it gets into all, like I said, displacing people those are their jobs, right? Those is what they know how to do, whether it's healthy or not, or whether it's helpful to their overall health or not, right?
Mm,
There are
absolutely.
people that absolutely like either refuse to or just are unwilling to learn these new jobs, and you can't just not leave them up hanging up to dry. A lot of
Yeah.
times that is what happens, but it's not right. So
Mm.
it's kind of a weird place we're in. I think we might have talked about it last time, the place we are in history, where it's like we got some futuristic stuff, but we still haven't solved all these
Yeah. Yeah.
problems. We still have to have a need for a lot of these things. So
Man, that's so true, man. So true. That's so funny you bring up the robot thing because, yeah, you would think we can just have something available just to at least clear the path, but I think certain things are always going to need a human touch, regardless of how far, you know, we
yeah,
go. That's one thing I actually love about working with children for the last like 20 years is if there's no robot I'm worried about that's going to replace me. I mean, unless we really go into iRobot, Matrix kind of, but Yeah. So but yeah, but it's interesting. You're right about the time period we're in. There's a lot of things that are being handled. We have these electric cars that can practically drive themselves if you just type in, you know, and then you have elements where we need people to actually be present to take care of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting place we're in. I agree.
So anything else kind of big happened with that week? I know you posted a little bit on your story about different things. I don't know if
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I mean, there was one other thing that took place that I thought was interesting, and I was talking to some of my female friends this week about relationships and stuff
oh,
like
that
that.
was
And I thought,
such a good one. That wasn't even what I was referencing, but that's a good one. Get into it.
really? Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, for this one, yeah, one of my female friends was kind of just talking to me about one of the relationships, or at least something she was entertaining the idea of going into with someone. And I suspect for a while she was trying to actively avoid mentioning the person because I'm familiar with the person.
Well,
Yeah, yeah. And then I don't know if she was just getting very comfortable in the conversation, but she incidentally mentioned his name, so I was aware of who he is, and I know his philosophy on things and stuff like that. And it's not very godly. I'll put it that way. Not someone that a woman who is moving forward as a Christian should even entertain. The gentleman, to my understanding, does not care for having children, does not care about marriage, and he doesn't care about any of those elements. And she does, but she's entertaining the idea of, you know, uh, considering him. And so part of me wanted to just jump on her, like, we're talking on the phone, and I want to say, go down the list of all these things that, it's like, how dare you, even entertain this? Like, what is, and I wanted
don't
to
even.
just,
Just send her the Ten Commandments. Just send them to her. No context. Just let her interpret it as she will.
but then it occurred to me that, maybe I'm overlooking the fact that, she and many other ladies, not everyone is raised in a Christian home. Not
Yeah.
everyone is trained up to know what to look for. There are a lot of ladies that, Hollywood is basically telling them how to date. Like that's their standard is it's Hollywood. And the best sexual intimacy you can have is from a one night stand. For
Yeah.
some people that is the standard. And so um, I think instead of me, I mean, I don't know, I almost wanted to like explode on her on the phone. We talked for like 2, 3 hours about all of this, but it occurred to me that for her to even consider this individual, I knew that she obviously did not. I think I overlooked the fact that she had no like training when it comes to like what type of man to really consider. Like there is no foundation with that. And I can see like, and I'm not necessarily talking only about her, but it's just a lot of ladies in general. And I know we can talk about guys in another video, or but yeah, it's just a lot of ladies that are just they're lost. They're lost. They have absolutely no standard, and it's worse when a woman is insecure about themselves to some extent, because it's almost like, well, I'll just take what I can get. Like I've talked about some ladies even going as far as considering the what I call the counterfeit marriage. It's like they feel like they can't get the real thing, so they'll just settle for the next best thing. So if they can cohabitate, they'll just take that. If they
Yeah.
can, get attention from a guy and offer their bodies to a man they're not married to, as long as he comes around, well, then they'll take that. They'll take that. And so I think it occurred to me just this week, and I'm like 39 years old, and I'm just now realizing that there are some women that they actually don't know better sometimes. And I don't mean like in a harsh way, but like no one trained them up. They don't have any biblical references. They don't have any foundations. Mom and
Yeah.
dad
They
never
have
talked
nothing
to
to
them
fall
about
back
this.
on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it just occurred to me right now, and I just like, wow, it just really kind of threw me off. You
No,
know.
for sure. That's. I really liked how you went into that story because it really portrays, like a big topic we've been on already is like self-worth, right? And not
Yeah,
you were saying not giving some not fulfilling a husband's role for someone who isn't your husband, right? Not giving husbandly
yeah, yeah,
rewards for someone who wouldn't
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
be your husband, right?
Hmm.
And when you
Hmm.
kind of hold that power, then it's like you're weeding out people that wouldn't fit those requirements anyway. And I think I wrote a tweet about this at some point about just like knowing who you're going to date, right? Even if you don't always have to date for marriage, but just be aware that like this could be a potential partner at some point. And it's a lot easier to seek out, favorable interests or traits or qualities at the beginning and kind of differentiate between your options like that rather than to hope over 10 or 20 years over a marriage or a relationship that they change for you, right? I do believe
Yeah.
people can change, but I don't think it's healthy to go about that, to hope, right? To think, oh, I can change them. No, sweetie, just choose someone else. Like, I think you're right on about the foundation not having something to go back to, right? As far as a standard. And even so, I actually read another Twitter thread about this ex supermodel or something. She was talking about the business and everything, and especially where it's gone with online and everyone's trying to be an instant fitness model and everything, and how
Mm.
it just changes everything when the product is your flesh, right? And you're just losing your something precious to you when you're kind of just giving it out piecemeal to anybody, right? I'd have to review that more for a more overall statement. It's been a couple days, but I just thought it was super interesting.
Yeah. It's I mean, you make up a good point because, I mean, there's a lot of people that are is aware of this site, but there is a site called Onlyfans
Oh,
that is very
you want to get into that conversation? All right, hold on. The
I mean,
OnlyFans.
I can just briefly touch on it if you
No,
like,
let's get into it, James.
but and to my understanding, the site originally was very similar to YouTube, but people actually had different skills and things. They were basically teaching people, and so the idea is to sign up, pay this fee, so you can have access to specific people that would, can show you unique attributes or things, and whatever they specifically wanted to teach you.
Yeah.
But over time, of course, it turned into something else where ladies were basically exploiting themselves for money, and they would do sexual acts or sexual things. And basically, there's a lot of guys now that are keeping the site, running because, yeah, there's basically women exploiting themselves. And there are a lot of women that are making, thousands of dollars a month that are actually, they can actually afford a luxurious lifestyle, nice cars, nice house, nice penthouse, whatever. But the issue is, I think that there are a lot of these ladies that are not considering, the long-term effects of this. It's like, yes, you're going to get paid for right now, but you are going to get older and things are going to change.
Yeah.
Men are going to look for the next young thing, and at some point, it's like, what happens to these ladies? And often these people are not. These ladies are not investing. They're not looking for, into property. They're just kind of living this lavish lifestyle, and they're not thinking about, wait, what happens when I do get, I don't know, 30 or 45 or whatever, and no one's really looking at me anymore. Like, what happens next? Because you can't just walk into and be a school teacher. It's like, you're online. You're all over online.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're
and
saying you're fine with it as long as they're smart and they invest their earnings, right? Yeah, as long as they're able to keep it after they're done, you're fine with that. James seal of approval.
Well, yeah, but it's just, I guess overall, I'm really just saying that there comes with a cost when people
Yeah.
exploit themselves. It comes with a cost, and I
Absolutely.
think people don't think about the ramifications in the long term. It's and it's the same thing with some people that maybe when they're young, they're goofing off, they're playing around, or distributing themselves to different partners, and then I don't know, they don't think, well, I could actually catch a STD, something that may be incurable, or
From
what if I
sending
get,
pictures on OnlyFans, that's wild. New transmissible diseases via the internet.
yeah, but there's and then of course there's like no one's going to respect you when you're on that site, like you're
Yeah.
going to get all this attention, but no one respects you.
I mean,
And then of course, go ahead.
well, there's I don't mean to cut you off, but there's definitely a community that will embrace that, right? That's kind of where a lot of the culture's leaning in certain senses. And I remember more of what that Twitter that I was talking about was saying. She got into that. She got into how it's kind of predatory. First of all, it's like a male led industry. Like
Oh, yeah.
women are the main like poster people. but it's all kind of male controlled and male dominated, and over, and it's just predatory in the sense that it takes all these young girls and teaches them, oh, this is how you provide for yourself, this is how you're an entrepreneur, this is how you make money for yourself, like go off, sis, like they're hyping them up over this, and it's just a
Yeah.
culture that like everyone wants to be like, even on Instagram, like a fitness model or something, right? And
Oh
they're
yeah. Oh yeah.
just spreading all that stuff, and they're not really taking into account, like you said, the ramifications of it, right? And
Yeah.
owning
Yeah.
themselves versus like selling themselves out piecemeal. And yeah, it's like I said, it's just an industry that's like that shows a lavish lifestyle and teaches that you can work for yourself, but it doesn't show the downside of it, or that you're
Yeah.
giving
Oh,
yourself to
absolutely.
that.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have to consider, like, let's say one of these ladies are very popular and she's trying to meet, family at a family function, and yeah, somebody recognizes her, like, or even on the street, or maybe at, another environment. It's like no one's thinking about that. Like, and then there's people that, they'll look at these images and these videos, and they will have some type of software to download that or to record it in some way, and
Yeah,
they'll
it's there
sell that
forever.
stuff themselves. So it just opens you up, and
There's
really my whole, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, you were getting into your whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, overall, I was just really getting to, yeah, ladies have to be, yeah, I mean, men as well, but ladies have to be incredibly cautious and careful with the decisions that they make, not only with the type of people that they consider, but also, um, exploiting themselves when it comes
Yeah,
to their bodies, just like you were
and
mentioning, because it comes with a cost.
you're right. And then even to the point of people downloading their videos or whatever, that's seen even with like not even content that's not trying to be provocative and not trying to make money off of the selling
So
of
true.
flesh. Like I know a bunch of friends and people I follow, all these women have these accounts and they have maybe a beach picture, right, or anything like that, and there's accounts that will like make a fake account in their name and say like, oh, post a link. God knows what it leads to, but
Yeah,
it's acting as if they were doing an OnlyFans account or something that's like, something up the lines of pornography, and they're just
yeah,
that's not at
yeah.
all what they're trying to do, and they're like, report this account. There's definitely people out there that will take those images, anything risque at all, right? So it sucks that that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, yeah.
um
And what's really wild, Tim, is I've had a handful of my female friends that I've known the last 10, 15 years, attractive ladies that has happened to, and they're screenshotting it and they're putting it online. They're like, hey guys, find this profile and report it because they're using my images, and they're attractive ladies, and yeah, they chose to, have bikini pictures and all that. So yeah, somebody was like, hey, I can use these pictures to build something else, and
yeah,
yeah, so yeah, it's
I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie. I've seen both sides of it. Some other profiles for sure on their own were already posting a lot more scandalous of photos, but even with people that were more wholesome on their photos, just a pretty girl, would anyone, anyone's
well,
kind of
yeah,
open
yeah,
to it. So you always have to be careful. As
oh, yeah, yeah,
as far as the OnlyFans thing, I think I just kind of laugh. I think it's funny. Not that I want to endorse pornography. It's bad. Everyone should quit. It's kind of terrible that it's ingrained to society nowadays and people grow up with it, exposed to it a lot more early. But as far as like only like you're paying and you're simping to somebody else when shit's free, like I'm sorry, but like if you're gonna be that way, go, save some money. Like just thinking
yeah,
practically. But anyway,
yeah.
that's neither here nor there. Um, the other thing I was
Mm,
wanted to say about it was, as far as a girl earning that bag, right, being a self-employed whatever, right. I I might be a little torn on this. Maybe I need to grow a little bit myself. But if you're gonna go that route, because I remember thinking at one point, don't do OnlyFans, but just why don't you, or I guess people that have sugar daddies, right? Or whatever.
mm,
I'm like, you know
mm,
what? While you're young, if you can live easy, get that bag, do your thing, sure. Side hustle, develop a skill, build your own thing so you can get out of that. But if you're
mm.
enjoying it, they're taking you to fun, like whatever. Like, if you're not like, but when it's online like that, it's just entirely different, right? It's a
Yeah.
different pay model. There's a lot more people that'll see it, and then you expose yourself to just online in general. You post anything. There's some weirdos out there, man. There's some people
Yeah.
that you got to be careful with posting locations and stuff, and
Oh, absolutely. Because there
like
are people that will meet you at that Starbucks if you,
absolutely.
they will meet you. Yeah.
Just stay safe out there, everyone.
Seriously, yeah, yeah. It's that's so crazy. We're talking about this because there are times when I've watched YouTube and there'll be a number of female streamers that will mention, whether they were in the United States or another part of the world, somebody recognized them, and was like, I don't know, really a fan, and they didn't really necessarily go and talk to them, but just would stay in their vicinity. And sometimes these streamers would be streaming even from their phone, just kind of, and you could see the guy walking behind them, just staying just enough to,
Yeah.
and some guys have gotten so as much as bold enough to actually talk to them and start touching all over them,
Yeah.
and so it's yeah, it's a wild, it's really wild, and that's one of the things I really want to emphasize is that, I personally I'm not in support of these movements that some guys, subscribe to that are like against women, and I do think there are some ladies that make the poor decision of putting themselves in jeopardy. And yeah, unfortunately, there are situations that can take place, that can, possibly harm them. But then we have ladies that, I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, that yeah, sometimes they're just a pretty girl and they're just minding their business, and maybe they are more on the wholesome side, but they'll still have stalkers. They'll still have somebody regardless will
Yeah.
come after them and stalk them, and and yeah, there was like this 13-year-old girl, I think, who was popular on TikTok. I forgot her name, but yeah, her father actually like ended up shooting a guy with his shotgun because the guy, went to her house two times in one I think in one day, and had a gun with him. Like he wanted to somehow. I don't know if he wanted to kidnap the girl
Good for the
or what.
dad.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's scary, man. I mean, and I don't
It's
have
very
TikTok or
scary, man.
anything, but it's super popular, and I've heard, and all my friends try to get me to get it because it's like funny videos and stuff, right? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know a lot of that, like, or there's a lot of young people on it, and I just see different posts of just like in older people responding to it, and it just like looks weird, man. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it is an algorithm. So, and it does. I was learning in my business class. It tracks what keeps you on the screen, not even what you like and interact with, but what keeps you on the app. So the second you open it, what you're looking at, it'll track that and show you more of that, right? Even if you're away from the phone, if you leave it on, and then you'll start seeing those types of videos the whole time. Um, so it's just, I don't know. It's kind of
It's
dangerous to
fascinating.
have
Yeah.
fascinating, but I just, as far as it targeting the younger community and all, getting them to do all these different dances or whatever, I mean, I don't even know what's on there, but like you said, it's showing younger people, and then everyone has access to that, and there are creeps out there that do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely.
and I have a daughter now, and I got to think about these
You know what?
things.
I was going to bring that up, but I said, you know what? I'm gonna let you bring that.
It's a nightmare. Because
Yeah,
here's the thing.
yeah. I mean,
I don't know if I talked about
man.
this yet, but I'm a big strong football player, a big man, and I have all these like ideas of how I want to raise my sons. And then I found out I was having a daughter, and I was like, oh no.
Cannot compute. Cannot compute. Like,
Yeah, what do I do?
yeah, yeah,
So we're
yeah.
gonna roll with the punches. We're just gonna make sure she
Of
knows
course.
that I love and I'm proud of her.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
we're gonna have to adapt to that. I joke with my wife that I want to raise a tribe of warrior men, and so but yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely a challenge in today's day and age.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I feel like just this topic alone could be a series of videos. Just this topic, man. It's so
Yeah.
much to unpack. It's
All right, good stuff so far. What else you got for us?
well, I mean, maybe, and I don't know if you want to, use this as an into entertainment as well, but I did see the Batman movie.
Okay, so I did saw that you posted about that.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet. So if you
So
want,
definitely can't reveal any spoilers.
well, yeah, no spoilers. You can talk about it generally. Yeah, I think would be a good thing. I don't know what your availability is tomorrow, but I can probably schedule time, go see it tomorrow, and then we could do like an hour long spoiler talk about it,
I'd
and
be
then
open to
post
that.
that in addition to this at
Okay,
some point.
okay, okay.
Yeah, but feel free to give some basic thoughts if you'd like.
No, no. I mean, just in general, I really thought it was a great film, man. Great film. To be honest with you, I rarely think of visiting the theater after I've already seen something, because if I like the movie, I'm going to buy it anyway. And this is one of those few films where I'm actually actually considering watching it again in a week or two.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah, and it's like 3 hours, but I enjoyed every element of it, and I just thought Robert Pattinson did a very good job. I feel like Matt Reeves did a wonderful job, just giving us this new interpretation of Gotham City, and it was just nice to see, um, a Batman that he was still learning himself. He was still figuring things out, and you see like he has his own issues to work through, and uh, it's strange. It's just I always thought to myself, it would be nice to see a Batman film that actually kept that mystique and that mysterious nature behind Bruce Wayne, even after you're introduced to Batman. And most films, there's always an opening scene of Batman jumping in and helping somebody, or there's a fight or whatever. Every single Batman movie, and he's always very mysterious in the beginning, and then
I'm not
after,
wearing hockey pads.
I'm not wearing. What's the difference between me and you? I'm not wearing hockey. But yeah, but I felt like this film did a really good job. Like he never lost that mystique. He never lost that mysteriousness. He kept it the entire film. The entire film he kept it. So it was actually nice to see that for a change, because I feel like with every single Batman film, even somewhat the Ben Affleck, which I really enjoyed a lot. I enjoyed the Batman versus Superman Batman. He was vicious, vicious, But I just yeah, it was so nice. But yeah, I definitely encourage, if you're a comic book fan, definitely take the time to see that film. It was really good. But yeah, I would love to get into
We'll for sure do that tomorrow then.
Okay.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm free, man. So
All right. Well, yeah, I guess our week, over here we did some fun things. We this past Friday, we went to our local game store. We played Dungeons and Dragons. It was from like 4 to 9. They did this thing where it wasn't just the game itself, but it was just strictly combat. So it was 2 teams of 3 people each, and it was like just battling each other, which was really fun, because typically it's your team and you fight against a bunch of different enemies, right? That are just random, that the dungeon master will control himself. But this time it was like 3 people versus 3 people, right? So it was a fun little event they had going from all of March on the Fridays. So we're going to be going to that every Friday for a while.
nice.
Yeah, that was super fun. We hadn't played in a while. The wife loves being like a druid, turning into like animals and stuff. So she was like a dire wolf and kicking all sorts of ass. And I had this character before in a different campaign that had died, and I wanted to bring him back. He's like a dwarf cleric, so his name's Cletus Derfew, and he talks like a hill dwarf, kind of like this. So I love kind of doing voices and role playing like that. So that was super fun. We were fighting, and the whole time, kind of like in Elden Ring, I was like, sinners! I was going
No.
yeah, and there was this guy, and he was like almost dead now, and I was like, if you convert to Murden, I might consider your surrender, right? So I was thinking, like, mid-fight with people, I might actually, like, role-playing as the character, just stop fighting him if he's actually trying to convert. Because I'm thinking, what would that character do?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's
Because in D&D, you can often have multiple ways to beat an interaction. It doesn't always have to be combat. You could talk your way out of it. You could do different things, right? So, but when it's just 2 teams of 3 people, typically it's just going to be combat. But I'm thinking, no,
right.
if my character, someone was like, I'll repent, just let me live, I'd be like, okay, all right. So we had a blast. That was really fun. Aurora did good. She's pretty good when we take her places, so that's nice.
Good. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
She was more fussy during the day that day, so we were worried we might have to leave early, but she was a champ.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was good. We also, played some more video games. That's what we do here. Casa Dolan, big gamers. I played.
I love it.
Julie was playing some more Elden Ring. She started it. She's having a lot of fun
Really?
too. Yeah. She's. I just make fun of her because she just like, can I just like go around and not fight anybody? She's kind of. Like, Julie, you're gonna have to fight someone eventually. It's like, no, I just want to walk around.
Oh,
And in that
dude.
game, you actually can. And I was telling her, it's gorgeous. If you want a pacifist run, go ahead. People are gonna swing at you, but you don't have to swing back. Just run. No,
Oh,
that game's great. That game's super fun.
good.
There's
Oh,
some
nice.
yeah gameplay I'm trying to upload on the other channel about that. I'll see about if you guys want to see Julie doing it. It's really fun seeing her kind of struggle with it too. So I'll post some of that maybe. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, apart from that, I had to do a project for school where we were doing mind maps. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mind maps.
So basically, it's a way of jotting down your ideas. So you start with one in the center, and you kind of have a couple links to, or not just like lines to other ideas, right? Subsections of that one, and then you keep extrapolating until you get like a good idea of what you want to do, right? So
Okay.
I made up this little presentation, and it was like short and wasn't supposed to be too much effort, but I went kind of deep into it because I chose a topic that I tweet about that I kind of am like wrestling with and things that I'm learning as being a new father and everything. And I thought, so the one in the center was be a man, right?
Mm.
And out of that, I tweeted about this afterwards because I thought it was profound. But I came up with 4 pillars of manhood, and it was so
Oh, I
from be a
see that.
man, the 4 pillars, and I think are leadership, strength, honor, and glory.
Mm.
And so I extrapolated on all of those, and obviously some giant factors. Ones more relevant to me right now, fatherhood, being a good husband, being a role model. That all goes into leadership, right?
Mm.
And then leadership had like subsections of like family, like I said,
Mhm.
role model, husband, right?
Mm.
So it went in really deep, and then strength. Some of the things I said there was bravery. Um, I'd have to look at it again. I think I'm going to post it and write more about it. So be on the lookout for
Yeah, yeah,
that.
you should.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
know you got faith up there. It was really good.
I
It's
did.
really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Faith was in there for strength and for leadership, I believe. But and that was actually another one I did about more recently about the 5 ways to improve your life, like bulletproof, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Nice,
that was like
nice,
working
nice.
out, like you said, faith, helping others, and just self growth, right? So, but yeah, so that was a really interesting idea. I learned a lot from it. It was really nice to like mind map all that stuff out, and I'll definitely be coming out with more content about that. I really like that idea of
Yeah,
the 4 pillars, right, and being able to
yeah, I like
get
that.
stuff
I
out
like
of
that.
them. Yeah, out of honor, it was more so like, are you trustworthy, right? Are you respected in the community? And for glory, it was kind of like men's desire for competition, right? And some other things I put in there. But yeah, so it was a
Mm.
nice little thought experiment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mind mapping. Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. The program actually was a nightmare to use. I'd like watch some videos. I was super frustrated at that, but once I got it going, it was good.
Really?
Yeah, that software was difficult, but yeah. So that was
Okay.
really good and fun. And then also keep on the lookout. I was talking to some other people throughout my Instagram, and actually more people have podcasts than I knew about. Not everyone like I guess
Hey.
posts about it, but yeah, no, a lot of people are talking. It's an interesting format. A lot of people do it. But in that regard, there's a one of my friends is a part of one called the Level Play Sports podcast, and she actually invited me to be on. I think next week or the week after. So yeah, no, we're plugging in, trying to network, get stuff out there. So I'm gonna be on that. I'm gonna be talking a little bit about, I guess, my collegiate career as an athlete. If y'all didn't know, new here, played football through high school and college. A lot of fun doing that. A lot of experience. Talk about that sometime. Like I said, follow me on social media. You can hear all about it. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about it there. And then, I'll plug this podcast and what we do here, and it'll be good. I think it'll be really good.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Look at
Wanted to
this.
let you
Wow.
know.
I know, right? Yeah, this is cool, man.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Be on the lookout for that. But what was interesting though, there is a lot shorter of a format. They do like, I think all of their episodes are under 30 minutes, and I've listened to some of them, and
And that's what I'm familiar with is like the shorter stuff, to be
yeah,
honest
yeah, and
with
I
you.
know we kind of. I wanted to give us a longer format here so we can really go into these topics because we'd already be done, James. We wouldn't have been able to get
Yeah,
into
you're
the
right. You're right. You
OnlyFans. We
are
wouldn't have
right
been able
about
to
that.
get
You and
into
me, yeah.
self worth. So we're coming here 50 minutes now, and like if we had to cut it short, like we'd
Wow.
be no. What would we have talked about?
Wow. Time just like flies with us, man.
We seriously, we would have. What would we have talked about? It's just been small talk, and so. I really like this one. So, but I'm gonna talk to her about it. I'm gonna ask like, is that the limit? Can we go? Because I'll talk for days about some of this stuff. She asked me. She said she's gonna send me questions and stuff about different things she wants to talk about, so I can prepare. I'm like, oh sweet, even better. But I'm already thinking about different things I could talk about, and I'm thinking, okay, she asked about teamwork. I'll go into leadership and role models and fatherhood and how that affects like so many different right
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
um there's so much about it that I could get into. So I'm definitely, it'll be shorter, but I'm gonna try my best to condense, work within that time frame, and yeah, hopefully that'll work out. Get this out there to some more listeners.
One thing I was gonna say is that just as a person, is working out and it's funny because I've worked out, and I would even when it comes to just my walking and running and stuff like that, I noticed that over time I realized that I could walk further and not get as tired, or I was
Yeah,
stronger. You can feel the difference, the progress. And I feel like when it comes to communication, it's the same thing. The mind, the brain is like a muscle. Like,
yeah,
and I learned over time that even though there are times when I slacked with my working out and all that kind of stuff, when it comes to my mind, when it came to communication, when it came to like um, critical thinking, like that was always something that I've always kept up. So I noticed that when a person would throw a question at me, I was ready. I was ready. I'm like immediately ready. And so it's good that I heard you mention that because I think, especially when it's something that you're passionate about or something that
yeah,
yeah, it's like it's so easy. Like it's like almost like it doesn't really matter whether somebody sends you the questions or not. Like you're already ready. This is your life.
yeah.
This is like when you sweat, this is what you sweat. This topic. So
That's a really
yeah,
interesting
so
way
that's how I
to.
feel.
That's an interesting analogy, a way to put it. Tag them together through working out and like the ease of it and sweating.
Oh, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you, Timothy, it's like even when it comes to my social media posts, like early on, like 15 years ago or so, yeah, I used to actually get frustrated with people when they were asking me questions, challenging me, and all that kind of stuff. I was so flustered with that, and I remember deleting people because I was so uncomfortable with like, how dare you question something I'm passionate. And
Wow.
now it's like it's so different now. It's so different. It's like I can't wait until somebody asks me questions because then I get to really expound, and go in detail. Like I love questions. I love when people, um, so it's just interesting because I feel like you're going into that as well, or maybe you are, your journey is already going, but this communication, even what we're doing now, and your journey just as a father, man of faith, like all this stuff, like it really changes you and it starts molding you, and
What's
you'll find that you'll be ready for these questions and thoughts.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's all kind of connected, right?
Yeah,
It seems
absolutely.
like they're separate, but honestly, they all can like it carries over
Yes,
one into the other. Absolutely.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes,
but I do want to make sure anyone that's listening, like we can talk forever. We talk to each other a lot. We're very passionate about these things. But don't feel bad if you can't talk like that. It's a skill that you have to develop. We've talked to a lot of
yes,
people throughout our lives, and a lot of people are nervous talking in front of crowds or talking in front of anybody, right? And that's okay. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different skill set. I love bringing up video games as a term for it because like you put your stats somewhere, right? Like I want to be good at strength. I want to be good at athletics or
yeah, yeah. I like
dexterity.
that. I like
I
that.
want to be good
I
at
like
charisma, talking to people. I want to be good at intelligence, really smart, right? So everyone's kind of different, and you kind of have to go through the world and experience things to find out what you're good at and what you're not. But what's great about this whole thing is that you can improve almost any skill, right? You're not set in your ways. You're not set with what you're given a lot of times. You have to play the hand you're dealt, right? We're
absolutely.
all given better stuff and less stuff, and we have to work on it to get it to where we want it to be.
Yep.
And just don't feel discouraged if you're not the best at communicating. I actually want to. I'm going to work on another project soon. Hopefully, it can give some tips and resources to kind of build that. And I've tweeted about it before, but it's about those compounding social interactions, right?
Mm.
That's how you build that skill. essentially. So I'm gonna extrapolate on that soon. So
Nice.
yeah, no, I want to. I'm gonna have some time with less schoolwork here. Spring break's coming up and everything, so I want to try and work hard and get something out,
Mm.
something that I can actually provide a resource for instead of just sharing these thoughts, right? More condensed and something that actually solves something. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because it really reminds me of something that a friend of mine actually decided to include me in, and I was having mixed signals about it. But yeah, basically, he's an older gentleman I met, at church many years ago, and even though we don't attend the same church anymore, we still keep in contact. We see each other periodically, and he, invited me essentially to work with him in regards to like coming out with some type of either book or at least a guide when it comes to like what type of things we should minister to a new believer. And I don't know, part of me I kept thinking to myself like there's so many other people qualified. Like I've never written a book,
yeah,
or anything like that. Um and he's an intelligent guy, and I'm thinking to myself like, am I really the first person he thought of? Like there's so many other people that are more established, and I feel like in some ways, like there's certain things I still don't understand, but I am also considering that maybe it's something that God wants in my life and stuff like that. He wants to bring me into this,
yeah.
so something I'm considering, but I was thinking about the fact that yeah, a lot of times I'm talking about a lot of these ideas, but it's not like written down
Yeah,
essentially.
like
So I was
you
thinking
can
about what
talk about messages and stuff, but having actually something that people can use that'll like directly address what they're interested in, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, and but here's the thing: you mentioned all those things that are holding you back, those thoughts. Same thing that held us back with this podcast and with other things we're doing. You started a YouTube channel. It's same thing. The lady at the well, man. Like even
Yeah, that's so
you
true.
know,
That's so
go into
that's
that
so
because you probably know it better than me. But for the people that don't aren't familiar with the story,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just love the idea of the fact that, Jesus in John chapter 4 was he was moving about with the disciples, and he was exhausted, he was tired, so he rested at the well, and they went into town to get him some food, and you know, he was communicating with this woman that obviously came in, the heat of the day when all the other women were coming in the evening times or when it was later because of the sun. But she came because, she was somebody that obviously was a bit of an outcast. She was not with one man, but she was kind of jumping from guy to guy. And it was interesting, just the whole interaction of Jesus ministering to her. And he really started out communicating with her in a more, a realistic kind of, things that she can really relate to. But then he kind of transitioned into a spiritual discussion and then ultimately revealed himself to her. And it was so fascinating how here you have a woman that was shared the gospel, and she's not a theologian. She's not somebody that, who's would be considered someone that would be even considered as like respectable. But Jesus, he essentially launches her into ministry, and she brought literally her whole town to Christ, her whole town. And she's not a theologian, like I said, she's somebody who was jumping from guy to guy, and Christ recognized that. But she, it's so interesting how, I think sometimes for a lot of us, and I'm adding myself in this category, is sometimes I think to myself, man, this is somebody else's job,
yeah,
like I'm still trying to figure myself out in these areas. And yeah, God's not in the market of waiting for people to be ready and then he's grabbing them and putting them in the ministry. It's like, hey, I'm going to use you. Let's go.
yeah,
Let's
no,
go. Yeah. And I'm realizing that more and more. And yeah, it's wild.
that,
It's wild because that's like antithetical to what we know as a society. You train the person first, then you launch, you give them, and God's like, no, no, no. Let's go. Let's go. I'll give
yeah.
you the tools as we go. Let's go. You
I
know?
I think that story is funny. I just pictured from Jesus' perspective, he sees this woman there, and he's like relating to her, talking about, "Oh yeah, the water's nice. Hear about that Messiah? Oh yeah, that's me. I'm the
That's
guy,
actually me,
the guy
yeah.
you heard about, flipping tables. That's right here." He's just casually, just like bringing it up, like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no, are you faithful? You know about God?" It's like, "I'm his son." Oh man, and how
Oh
she
my
must have
God.
reacted, right?
Yeah, right? Seriously. It's like
No,
what?
that's such a great analogy, and I thank you so much for sharing it with me. Like I said, I'm still really early in the Bible. James brought this up to me a couple times, I think within the past year or so. But I really like that story a lot. It kind of just puts aside the fears of like you're not good enough to do something, right? That's all mental. That's all what you're thinking. It's not relevant at all. Action is always greater than inaction. So if you let everything stop you, then you're just not going to improve. Or you're not going to get anywhere, right?
So
So
true, man. So true.
yeah.
And you brought up my YouTube um,
Link
channel, and
right there. It'll be right there.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, I was just thinking to myself, just for me, like I was thinking, well, let me study and learn how to edit properly. Let me edit all these things, and let me get some sound effects, and let me get the some type of background music, and let me get the right touch, and let me get everything right and the right background, and it was like literally I waited 6 months. I waited 6 months because I was thinking, no, I'm not ready yet,
Yeah.
and I realized like I'm never going to be ready if I don't
Nope.
just start.
Just got to
I'm
go.
never going to be ready, you know. So yeah, it's just yeah, unique perspectives. If you guys want to check it out, unique perspectives. We'll provide the link. But yeah, I just thought it was so wild, and even yeah, even I actually came from the park and I shot 2 videos today. So probably the next day or so I'll have them up. And
Did
yeah,
did
just
you
very, very
shoot 2 videos though? I heard there was some troubles, some complications.
that was my third one. That was my third one. I was right in the middle, and battery died. I'll be like, come on, man.
What happened?
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny because I told myself, I had these 3 topics I wanted to address.
Okay.
Didn't want to go too long, and one of them really took a lot out of me because I was talking about my first like heartache or something like that. My first,
Oh. Oh,
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
be
yeah.
on the
I
lookout
really,
for that one.
yeah, I might share that one first, and then I was talking about my conservative values and how it is, how things have changed since 2020 when I kind of made that transition, with my ideologies politically. But yeah, I was really talking about just going into more detail in regards to women, really just seeking a proper partner and not letting your past kind of get in the way of that. And man, I was like right in the center of like a good point, and then my battery just and I seen like a little like ran out of power. I'm like, oh, are you serious? I'm like, oh, come on. And I said, oh yeah, I need to yeah get another battery because if something like that happens again, I want to be able to just grab the battery out, replace it, and pop it back on and just keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah. So I said, yeah, I'm not doing this no more. Not like this.
Yeah, that same thing happened not that same thing, but something similar happened to me while I was streaming Elden Ring because I was trying to stream because it's like with certain bosses it's like funnier for a boss run if you're just dying a lot and then you like overcome it, right? So I wanted to record that boss specifically, and not only was my computer shitting itself at some points, like it was just really laggy and just like
Oh
bad,
yeah.
but it would I found out that like for like an hour I was streaming with no audio,
No,
no audio at all. Not even my mic, not even
no.
what's coming through the game. I was just sitting there.
Oh
Yep,
no.
yep.
Oh, that's
And I
terrible,
was like,
man.
I had just beat the boss. I was like, oh, this is good, Julie. We did it. We got a good thing, and I'll post it. It'll be great. Yeah, I got told later on. So if there's some gaps in that playthrough that's up there, you know why? Technical difficulties.
It's so fascinating how, experience can be
Oh
such a
yeah.
great teacher at times.
Oh yeah.
Like even with me and the battery thing, it's like I know now. I know that I have to be ready for that. And I didn't think about that before. I thought, oh, the battery is big enough and it's strong enough but man, when I'm filming, it just burns that battery away, man. So I realized like I have to be ready. So now that I know that, now I know to invest in you know, in a battery and be able to charge it. And yeah, so it's just it's fascinating how, just learning from these little mistakes and stuff that actually makes you improve your approach, be more effective with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and one of the other things I was focusing on a lot this week, because what I'll do with my time, I'll get what I need to get done, right? Make sure I do my habits, my Bible reading, my working out, and then all this extra time, I really try to make sure Julie knows that like I want to do this. I'm pushing to do this podcast thing with some other things I'm working on, but don't ever let that stop me from spending time with you and the family, right?
There
I
you
don't
go.
want it to conflict too much because it's easy for me to be like, okay, I got time now. Let's work on this thing, right?
Oh
But I'll
yeah, yeah.
find sometimes I'll be busy all day, and it's just almost like not neglecting my wife or anything, but it's just, she's taking care of the baby a lot and doing things around the house and keeping
Yeah,
busy.
yeah, of
But
course.
we really appreciate our time together, and that's what we love so much. So I always try to make sure at the end of the day, like, yeah, there's stuff I could do, there's stuff I want to work on, but if it's been a while, I'm like, I can kind of notice, and I'm like, no, let me pause, let me take a break, spend some time with my wife, with my kid, and so
That's
always,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Didn't mean to get off on that, but always, treat your family right. They're the priority, not whatever you're working on. Um, but so in the sense of like spending some time working on this, I'm trying to find out like how to get more people interested, right? How to get the message out there to people that might not have seen it, right? Because we can spout this out to our friends and family all day, right? And then love you, mom. Thanks for watching. But we need some.
You know what she watches every episode, man.
Yeah, yeah, love
Yeah.
it. Actually, what I felt bad because we talked about comments and questions, and we didn't even answer hers last time. So remind me at the
Oh,
end for
okay,
questions. She has
okay.
a question that she
I
wants us to
actually have
answer.
one question as well. Somebody,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah,
So that'll be fun. But as far as spreading the message, I realized like we need to get the word out there to people that don't know us, right? Because we
yeah,
need
yeah,
genuine opinions. We need genuine people. Well, not that people that watch us aren't genuine, but they know us.
yeah.
They're a little biased here or there, right?
Yeah, unbiased. Yeah, yeah.
So unbiased opinions on what's happening, and so in that vein, I've gone apart from just Twitter, just Instagram, and trying to post it in other places. I tried like Reddit. I tried this app I used to get memes on called iFunny. I posted on there, and so that at least I got a couple views of like people that I don't even know, right? Who knows where they are or anything. It's hard there because you can't post links, so I just have to say it's on YouTube. Here's the name.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Follow
yeah,
me at this thing on social media. But hopefully some of those start returning,
Okay,
converting to
okay.
views and stuff. But yeah, as far as
Nice.
networking, just getting it out in front of people we don't know and looking for groups that as to encourage growth, looking for communities and groups that might be interested in the topic and going engaging with them. I've found on Twitter, I've joined different. They have spaces where it's like people can join in a call to talk, and there's a
Oh,
thing
okay.
called like Dad Twitter, and so I just hopped in one of the calls one time and I said some things that are a little profound or what I thought was I was learning about, and got some new followers and stuff. So things like
Hey,
that, right? Making effort to be engaged in other communities, bring
yeah,
them
I like
here, let them know what we're doing. Because I hear people like what we're doing. I'm hearing it.
that.
At least
Nice.
the people that don't aren't saying much. So.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Which we talked about earlier, you should be able to like say what you think. Don't feel you have to tell me in person, or don't feel like I'll get hurt. I promise. And something I'll tell with my friends, like my really good core group of friends. We've been friends since high school. Like some of my best buds will be there forever. But we don't always talk about like, I guess I don't want to say important stuff, but like uh, controversial topics, right? But I'm always reminding them like don't feel bad like or like don't think you have to say like oh I'm just kidding Tim like or whatever like if you have
Oh
something to
yeah,
say
yeah.
say it to me. I'm fine. I'm a grown man. I can take it. I want to.
That's
I
good. That's
encourage
good.
it. I want to be able to defend what I think, and I'm honestly putting ideas out there in the sense so I can discover it too. I'm searching for truth here. I'm not searching. I don't want to be right. I don't want to be my thing over your thing. I just want all the information I can get, and I want to discern from that, right? So if you have something that you want to share that can help us, absolutely, let us know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I'm with you on that, and I love that ideology there. And it's funny because one of the strengths that I'm going to say that has been cultivated in my journey, and alluding back to what I was talking about earlier about that workout program mentally and emotionally is that I find myself not easily offended, and it's fascinating because how outspoken I am about just about everything, and so it really helps. It really helps as a great tool that whether it's illegal immigration, abortion, faith, and Jesus being the only way, and every other path is not aligned to the truth. Like I don't mind sharing that, and if a person says, well, hey, I disagree with that, to me it's like, okay, well, what are your points?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what your points are, and it's fascinating because I find that even friends that are on the opposite end of some of these discussions, they can actually respect, like, hey, that you're not going to jump on me and get all over me because I support an idea that you don't support. And that's cool, you know? So it's nice that people like, man, I didn't realize like people who are devout Christians or maybe conservatives, you can have these kind of relationships, you know? So to me, it's like, as long as you're not pushing it on me, that's cool because I don't believe in pushing my ideas on people as well. I think a legitimate argument is okay. I don't like presenting it and putting it on the table just to present to somebody, but yeah, in regards to like pushing somebody and using the Bible as like to beat them up or something. No, I'm not for that.
It's a hefty tool. It could be done. Has
Yes.
been done in the past, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I think I have one of my videos. I think it's actually circulating right now on my Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, I was talking about the fact that in First Peter 3:15, there's like these three sections in one verse that really needs to be acknowledged, and it says, sanctify Christ in your hearts, always be ready to give an answer for the hope that is in you. And then it says with gentleness and respect. And I think that gentleness and respect aspect often gets overlooked. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to be ready to, sanctify Christ in our hearts. And yes, we want to be ready to give a defense for what it is we believe, but we also should be, you know, um, approaching people respectfully, and that means even with the people that may not like you all that well, or, they are ready to argue all the time and yeah. So I think that's something very important to continue to cultivate is like respecting other human beings, just even if they don't agree with you.
No, 100%. I think any good faith argument or good faith discussion should be at the forefront, right? Respect, like don't belittle your opponent, and that's the problem with sometimes online debates or Twitter in general, or like people going to ratio people on Twitter or social media, where it's all just a big slugfest as far as like I don't know, one-upping each other, right? It's not about having
Oh
a
yeah.
helpful dialogue. It's just about, okay, well, we're both on internet platforms, and I bested you, like, or I made you slip
Yeah.
up or something, right? And that's what it's all about.
Hmm.
That's what the media, like, what gets the clip to share is like a big whoa moment, right? When that's not really helpful, it makes people resentful, or that shouldn't be your goal. At least in everyday life, it's fine in some environments, and people like that, and in debates and stuff. But as far as like trying to genuinely connect with somebody on a human level and have these discussions, find out their worldview, find out their opinions and why they think that way, and vice versa, and then exchange ideas in a respectful manner. I think that's kind of the way we can kind of heal the divide, right, as a nation, um, because no one knows everything and no one has all the answers, right? So it's just being open to having your ideas changed and being open to other perspectives, I think, is always a good way to come out of it. And first and foremost, respect. And the problem with this is a lot of people are so intrinsically tied to their core values that anything other than that is seen as an insult or an attack, rather than just,
Sure.
like you said, putting it on the table. It seems like you're attacking my way of life or something. And sometimes that can be true. Sometimes people are hostile and they don't come with good intentions. But I would hope the majority of conversation out there is in good faith. And if not, it should be made that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's and one of the things that I think uh, I'm going to say a lot of us conservative Christians have to keep in mind as well, and this is kind of looking at it from a different perspective also, is it's still possible to be respectful towards people, but also recognize when they're not qualified for, mature discussions. There are some people in my own family that, they demonstrate that all the time, that when we're talking about like actual meaningful discussions, they are just not qualified to have those type of discussions. They can't be mature about it. If you're disagreeing, they have to attack your character. They have to attack your integrity. They have to attack you because to them, like that's how you resolve things is you attack
Yeah.
when, yeah. And so I think over time I just learned that, yeah, you can't play along with that, and one of the I have another Bible verse here.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Ring
yeah,
it.
yeah. And
I'm gonna have a bell.
ironically,
I'm gonna have a bell. I just ding 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 every time James does it.
but ironically, this verse is the very first verse I ever memorized, and it's Proverbs 26:4. It says, never answer a fool according to their folly unless you be like them.
Hmm.
Never answer a fool according to their folly unless you be like them. Folly being foolishness. And so, yeah, the idea is like if somebody's antagonizing you or teasing you or whatever else, the Bible is telling us that unless you're like that person, you don't need to be responding to them.
Hmm.
So I keep that in mind. Another rougher quote is actually from the American writer Mark Twain. Okay, so I'm going to share it. It's a little rough, but he says, "Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience."
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So between the two, I know when it's time to close my mouth and say, "Hey, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that." Hey, all right.
That's funny, man.
It is, man. It really is. It really is.
That's a good idea. So this kind of shifted to philosophy a little bit.
Yes, it did.
No
Yes, it
problem.
did.
No problem with that. I did want to just mention real quick. We were watching this week a show. So we finished Attack on Titan season 2. It's that anime. I described it last time to
Anime.
you, right? Or do you know of it?
Yeah, I'm aware. I think I watched like one episode of it, but is
Okay.
it pretty good?
No, it's solid. It's a good show. As long as you have no trouble reading subtitles, and really the
Okay.
people I find that have trouble reading subtitles are the people that can't read that fast. So that goes hand in hand. But no, it's super good. We really enjoyed that. I was actually thinking like, oh wow, this like is really a big climactic story thread for a mid-season thing, and then I found out, oh, that's the end. Oh, like I was like, ah, damn. Um, but yeah, there's some treachery in there. It's really cool. It's like it's some pseudo kind of powers that some people have. But no, it's really entertaining. It gets into that thing of like what people do, like we talked about a couple, like in the first episode about when they're in that post-apocalyptic situation, right? Things are just
Yeah.
different. They're not dealing
Oh,
with the same world you are, so decisions making is going to be
very different.
influenced
Oh
by
yeah.
that. And then so that show was great, and we're going to start season 3 soon. But another show we picked up again. I don't know if you've heard about it, but The Righteous Gemstones.
No, no,
It's
no.
a show on
That one.
H. Yeah, it's a show on HBO, and kind of comes with a stigma. HBO's like those Netflix show we talked about. There's just some nudity and stuff that's kind of ever
Okay.
since Game of Thrones. It's kind of
Righteous
like
gem.
Righteous Gemstones.
Righteous gemstone.
And it's kind of akin to it's I'd say it's making fun of the Joel Olstein type, if that
Oh,
uh, you know yeah, it
wow.
gets to you at all. It has John Goodman and Danny McBride. John Goodman.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So he's kind of the more well-known of the two, but it's a really funny show. Like I said, you got to take it with a grain of salt and stuff. And I would
Mm.
hope, as Christians, like I said, some people can't stomach stuff like that, right? Like they want to put whatever, it's your prerogative. I think it's really a funny commentary on it, and it's not actually. I thought it'd be a little worse because when people get into like showing the bad part of faith, they can go all day and they have a field day with it, right? They're just trying to make a point that they think is profound and undermine the good that can be done with it. But
Mm.
this show actually, it's really good. It wasn't like it didn't just drag Christianity or anything through the dumps, right? It just showed like the flaws of like people having a mega church and stuff, and the things that come with that. And they have like a big lot that they all have that they all live on with a bunch of mansions and stuff. And there's like a
Whoa.
there's a theme park, a righteous theme park, and
Oh my
they're
goodness.
preaching. Their church is like a giant, almost football stadium. They have like
Wow.
private planes called the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Oh my
So it's
goodness.
pretty hyperbolic. It's pretty funny. It's a good show. Me and Julie got a good laugh. It is pretty rough, as you would say. There's a little bit of nudity. It's not too crazy.
Okay.
But like at the end, it was really interesting. It kind of was like a wholesome type thing. It, like I said, I
Really?
thought it would go all the way or like worse, but it actually kind of eased off the gas a little bit, and it was very enjoyable. I
Mm.
liked that show a lot. And so
Okay.
we're watching season 2 right now. But it's just a funny show, and if you can, if your Christianity can take it, I think it's pretty entertaining.
Okay, okay. That's so funny. I think one time I opened up my HBO Max and I seen some type of, and I don't, maybe it's the same thing, but I seen like some image and it looked like a member of all these family members together, like in the clouds, and they look
Yeah, it
and
looks like a Michelangelo painting or something, right? Like
okay,
Sistine
yeah, okay,
Chapel
okay. And
type.
it was John Goodman. Now that I think about it, it was John Goodman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So
That's
that's
so
the
funny.
promo art for season 2. That's like their poster. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Wow,
No,
wow.
but it was funny. It was a good show. We enjoyed it.
Okay. Wow, wow, wow. That's funny.
S-
I may have to take a look at that.
Yeah, so kind of getting back right into philosophy and stuff. I don't know if you had anything profound, anything you had thought about past couple weeks besides the stuff we kind of hit on, or maybe extrapolate on anything we talked about.
I mean, I mean,
I got
honestly,
stuff. So if you, it's
actually,
fine.
yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say, actually.
Okay, so I think typically, I people who know me kind of know more what I'm about, but I thought I'd talk a little bit about. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast specifically, but kind of my whole goal and the message I want to spread, the core message, right? Like I said, I'm a new Christian, so I'm not totally about, or at least confident enough to evangelize yet. Same woman at the well problem that we talked about earlier. Um, that's part of
I
this
love the big
podcast.
reference to that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit. This podcast was almost called "Gamer at the Well," but I thought maybe that was. We
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
name that we're at.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah, I thought it'd be good to blend the two, right? To just start talking about it, not trying to like knock on doors and evangelize, but just open a conversation and not just have it be about religion, not just about entertainment or just philosophy, but like talking about all these things. People are complex. People have complex, ideas and uh, what's it called, hobbies, and so yeah, that's I think they can meld and blend. But for me specifically, my biggest goal has been for a long time just to be there for my kids. I think that's super important. And a lot of today's societal problems, I think, can stem from people that just weren't raised right or don't have good role models in their lives. And that's prevalent in today's society because the amount of people that grow up without fathers, is very high. And whether the dad is there or not, they can be helpful or not to their development, and it makes a huge impact on the way that the person is raised and the person acts afterwards, right?
Mm.
It's funny in some cases, to get to the league, the NFL, right? I've heard people say like, "Oh, if you come from like a two-parent home, you don't got the drive," right? Like as if coming from like a single-parent home or no parent home gives you something positive to take from it, right? Something like a drive to be great despite all that. But that comes from like I think a personal thing where you have to kind of examine your situation and play the hand you're dealt. I think that's a great way to look at it. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I thought it was funny, kind of accurate in some cases. Terrible joke, but I always joke with Julia, with my friends, that like if I want some D1 babies, I'm gonna have to step out after a couple years.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, never would. But
Oh
the
gosh.
I think everyone can get really caught up in the 24-hour news cycle, especially with media and the news how it is today, and it's always doom and gloom and what's wrong with the world, right? There's always a new story of something that's terrible, and nothing's ever like okay, right? That's to get clicks. That's to just like keep people's attention all the time, but it's not healthy, you know. I think a big part of what you can do is like just block that out, zone it out, and focus on what you can control. That was one of my 5 ways to bulletproof ways to improve your life, is just block out all the noise and focus on what you affects you and what you can control directly, right? And part of that, to that effect, I think, like we said, all the problems we wouldn't be having as many if everyone kind of just got their house in order and made sure that they raised their kids right, right? Be the role
Mm,
model in your life to someone else that you didn't have, right? Whoever you
mm,
wanted, whoever you wish you had in your life, be that person for someone else. And not just for your family, not just for your kids, but for anyone you interact with. That's something that I've kind of realized more recently with the past couple of years, because it's always been a goal of mine to be there for my family. But what I've realized is that you can have a profound impact on anybody you interact with for any given amount of time, right? And you don't know. Sometimes they don't always tell you, but if you go out with a positive mindset and just lead by example and try to set a standard for how you live your life, that gives a role model to somebody else, whether you know it or not. you know. So I think focusing on that is really important. I wish more people would. You know, that's kind of my whole goal. I want to push for that. I want to push for people to be uh, own their own business, like have their own stuff, their money coming for themselves, right? That just own their own lives, right? Be there for their kids, be healthy, because that's such a big part of it. Connects to everything. Like we said, it all kind of connects. It's all overflowing into one another. You improve one part, and inevitably, it's going to affect another part of your life. I just think all of that is very important, and I want to spread that message more than anything, right? So if I helped you with that or anything, let me know. I've actually already gotten like different messages and stuff about things I've said. This is what I needed to hear today. Thank you, you know, and you never know who needs to hear it. And so that's really humbling, and that's why I want to keep doing this and push to get this out to more people, because you know not everybody thinks about it. Some people are going through tough times and they need to hear these things, right? It's hard to extrapolate this knowledge when you're in a defeated state,
Mm.
right? And one of the things that really helped me when I was in a bad place, you know, as far as coming to the faith, was Jesus doesn't. It's almost like a hospital, right? Jesus doesn't treat those who are healthy, right? He treats those who need it, who are sinners, who are prostitutes, and whatever else, right? Those are the people that are going to be treated at Jesus' hospital, for this analogy. It's not the ones that are served, that are already faithful, right? He loves those people too, but they're not the ones that need his direct attention and intervention. So that kind of helped me when I was in a lower place, as far as just getting out of it and establishing who I wanted to be and ways to get there.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I can tell you've been meditating on this one, man.
Well, it's a lot, and it's a couple messages, but it's definitely something I can talk about for a while, and it's my passion. You know,
Okay.
I thought for a
Okay.
long time I wanted to be a football coach, and I still do at some point. I love football, and it brings a lot of these lessons to life. But I found through this and other means, there's other ways to share these messages.
Interesting. You know, it's funny because I was going to ask you about, what was your interest in regards to like football moving forward because I never got the impression that you were like, I don't want to say obsessed, but like committed to it at the point where like it's your life necessarily. I never got that impression from you because I always felt like you enjoyed it, you participated in it, you enjoyed the different disciplines that come with it, the camaraderie with your teammates. Like I can see you appreciate that. But I never got the impression like that was going to be your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but no, it's interesting. I was gonna, I'm glad you're kind of touching on that now because I was trying to figure out where was that going to.
Well, sure. Yeah, I can answer that more directly. And it's been such a big part of my life for so long, and I I never wanted to be like in the NFL. I was never one of those kids that wanted to have that dream, or I never thought I'd be like a super good football player or anything. Not to say that I'm crazy good or anything, but I like barely scratched my way into the D1 program at the end, my last year of eligibility. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun, and like you said, I loved all those things that came with it. The role models that I didn't necessarily have that I was presented with, and the camaraderie I got from it, the life lessons I learned. I love the sport. I think it's super valuable. I always tried to be that guy that was super driven and did everything right, but admittedly, I wasn't all the time, right? And I don't know. It's just different. Some people, and that's what I think it takes to get to the league. You have to be uncompromising in that, like day in and day out. It's just a different beast, right?
Mm.
And I had the size. I was blessed with the size, so I thought I had to do something with this. Too many people in my life have sacrificed to give me opportunities, right? I was able to,
Mm.
fortunate enough to go to a private high school and a couple years of private middle school, and I had an opportunity when I was playing football for Bishop Almont, and we had a really good team, and we made a lot of noise and everything, and getting recruited as far as college. I was like, I need to get a college scholarship. I need to keep. This is my way to do it.
Mhm.
So I always, yeah, it's an integral part of my life for so long, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say it wasn't everything. I was never like NFL or bust, right? NFL or nothing else, right? So that's kind of, I guess, to answer that question.
Okay.
But I was always, that was my why. That's a big thing that I love. A question that I was asked through football, what is your why? Like, find your why. And it's because a lot of people in my life sacrificed to give me this opportunity, and I wasn't going to waste it. I needed to make something of it. And it also comes to the sense of, like, you live now with my Uncle Frank and everything, and you see he's in a medical condition, needs help sometimes. And so what happened was I grew up with my mom, and then for high school I went and left to live with my dad, and I kind of left that whole family, and they all raised me, right? More so than my
I
dad did
remember
anyway.
that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I got a letter, my eighth grade like retreat or whatever. Dad was like, "All right, son, time to come live with me and be a man." And I was all excited. I was like, "Yeah, cool, sweet, awesome." Um, so I did, and it was just a different part of my life, right? After all these people sacrifice so much, and they're humble people. They all help each other financially, and we're not don't come from too
Yeah.
much, and always kind of paycheck to paycheck, bill to bill, right? Just making sure each member, like each house in the family, is kind of afloat, bringing each other dinners sometimes. But so after I left you guys, I spent like all of high school, and then it went into college, but years of my life away, just kind of crafting my own thing, like going to school, graduating from high school, starting to get a degree, and when I moved out of state too, I spent all this time on myself building my life, and I just appreciate that opportunity. But I always felt bad in the back of my head. I always felt like it was like I owed more, right? Especially when I heard the family struggling and people got sick and people needed care. And my older brother Matthew, which is like one of my heroes, he like put a lot of things on hold, and he was there with them the whole time. And he was still doing all this stuff online. He had his own business since he was like 14, his like computer repair business, and then he did a bunch of other stuff. Now he's like a marketing executive, but he was doing a lot of that stuff outside of that house, while helping my great grandmother, while helping everybody get along, while helping pay bills and employing my mom and her brother. Like, I always like I was like, man, he's doing it. He's like the best person ever. I looked up to him a lot because he was taking care of the family. It's like we've talked about it. That's both of our big goals. We want to be able to take these opportunities and succeed with them and take care and give back, right? So, yeah, for so long I felt like it was kind of selfish to take this time to work on myself, but that was my why. I was like, all these people sacrifice. I need to make something of myself. I need to make something of myself so I can give back to them. Like it's non-negotiable. I need to be successful. Period. Right? There's no other option. And now I'm fortunate. I'm at the point in my life I have graduated. I have a business management degree. Shooting for that master's because there's an opportunity for it. Right? I'm not a big school guy. I was never like I want all this. I love communicating and I'm a good orator, so I can get through a lot of stuff. And especially if I can, make good handshakes with the teacher, go to office hours, I'm usually fine, get in their good graces. But I never wanted to get a master's or anything, right? But now it's just trying to build something, right? It's the foundation, trying to get to that success level where I can give back more. And like I said a while ago, this past year, 2021, I spent a couple months. I had an opportunity to leave earlier out of state, right, for this last year. I could have been in a dozen places across the country to play football, and that might have improved my football career, instead of taking that 6 months off and taking care of family and moving in over there and helping out like I did. But I really felt like I had to give back, So I'd say, yeah, football wasn't my whole life. I'd say I prioritize things a little differently. And with a lot of football players, it is their whole life because it's a grand purpose. It's a greater purpose than yourself. You give yourself to this purpose that is greater than you, that everybody on the team is working towards this goal. And there's something profound, and I put that in my mind map of under, I think, glory, giving yourself to something that is greater than yourself, right? To have purpose. And I think everyone needs that. And for a lot of people, football is that outlet, and they don't know what to do when their time's done. Because at any point, that clock could be up, whether it's an injury or whether you're just lost, like out of opportunities. You don't know when the last game you're going to play is, the last time you strap on that helmet. And for a lot of guys, it's devastating when they go out of it. And I thought it would be for me too. I was not looking forward to it, and it was pretty emotional a couple games before the last one. But towards the last couple games, my daughter was born. Um, a family man. I got my wife and my kid out here now, and it's just I've ascended to a whole nother plane of like responsibility and purpose of giving something greater than myself. Right now, I am actively taking steps to achieve my primary goal of like being there for my kids. Right, it's now like the greatest leadership position I'll ever have. Like I said earlier in another podcast about it. The time is now, right? So when that time came, I never really felt it didn't hit me as hard. And to this day, even the couple nights ago, I had a dream about football. I love it. I miss it. It's a great sport, and I miss playing, but not so much that it's like my everything anymore. Now it's about
Mm.
my daughter and my wife, and I thought I wanted to coach for a while to be a part of that, to give back to the role models and coaches that taught me, and I still do. I'm gonna have to do that at some point, but I think as far as like the business side of it and having to move around a lot, and I don't know if I want that for my family right now. I want to build something and get stable, and then once I'm late, I can do that later on, right? And there's other, like I said earlier, there's other aspects to coach. There's other aspects to talk about these things in life, to share that message. It's not just through football anymore. I can do through other formats. Um, so yeah, I think it's not my primary goal. It's always been family, and I think that's why you picked up on it. Because honestly, when you said that to me right now, I was like, I was pretty serious about it for a while. I was like really trying there for a minute. Um, but being honest with myself, it was never do or die, and it was never like every single day being out there. When I was, and other teammates can attest to this. I do bust my ass. I'm a hard worker, but it's like I said, I think I always had family at my core, and especially now. You know,
Mm. Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
I can
talk
tell
about
you've been.
myself for almost an hour, but
No, it's interesting. It's very interesting to hear that you're very passionate about your family, man, and it shows. It's always shown, as far as I've, my perspective from your behavior is. So I thought to myself, even when you were here for that, 5, 6 months, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Like I know for a fact you're in a place where you could be doing something that some people would consider constructive or productive for what it is that you're trying to do, and it's interesting how you reserve time to kind of come and step in and help, and you were very much needed,
yeah,
as you can attest to, so yeah, it's very interesting, just to even observe your philosophies and things like that, how as moving forward, how you're evolving, and it's very interesting. It seems like over time, like that core, even right now, it seems like you understand why you're getting up every morning. You
oh yeah,
understand why. Yeah, yeah, you got it. You got it. It is your wife. It is your daughter. It is your family. That's like that driving force. It's profound.
thank you. No, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not by any means by far the first guy to think about this or discover this or anything. I won't be the last, and there's tons of other people sharing this message. I'm very happy for it. Um, for a long time, there's even a guy on YouTube who's like, it's like he asks like, "Dad, how do I?" Right, and he does a bunch of different things like
Oh,
tying a
interesting.
tie, working on a car, teaching different lessons like that, right? And that's perfect. That's like the message, right? Be that person that
Yeah.
you didn't have. Um, in your life and other people's because you don't know how it's going to affect them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So true. Wow. Yeah, I love that. I love the emphasis on serving others before yourself. It's interesting because as you were going down the list of all these different elements that has been driving you, I was thinking like, man, there's a Bible verse for that. There's a Bible verse for that. There's a Bible, and yes, it's a biblical principle, to one of the verses that I committed to memory, that I really
Ding ding
love
ding.
is Jesus, I believe in Matthew 28:20 says, the Son of Man didn't come to this world to be served, but to serve and give his life for the ransom of many. And when I read that, um, it doesn't need to be interpreted, like it's
It
very
says
clear.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so the idea is for us, all of us to be doing the same thing if we're Christians, if we are modeling Christ. That's what our job is to do, is to wake up, and the idea is to serve our neighbor, or
Yeah.
our family, not ourselves, not ourselves, And you think about Jesus, like he could have had so many things, but here we have him, in the Gospels, you know, serving the needy, giving food and things like that, ministering to people that are considered the social outcasts, And you even alluded to it earlier. Yeah, the Pharisees did ask him, like, why are you with these sinners and tax collectors? Why are you with these people? If you're supposed to be the son of God, you're supposed to be from God. Why are you with these people? And he had to let them know. It's not it's not the well that need a physician, but it's the sick.
Yeah.
It's the sick that needs a physician. And so, that's what drives me is what does God want me to do? Everything else is secondary.
Really? I
The
was going to
priority
ask
is
you,
what does
what's your
God want?
why? Like, what is your
Oh yeah,
why?
yeah.
Is that it? Like,
I mean, I don't want to, because I can go kind of long as well, but yeah, my thing is, what does God want? That is, it's just to serve God. So that is, and essentially that's I actually have a verse here I'm going to read, because I don't memorize it, but uh, Matthew 6:33, it says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all other things will be added to you." So the idea is to
that again
prioritize.
says it all.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So that's where my mind is, and I am noticing that God is very faithful. He's faithful. Yeah, you prioritize Him, and He'll take care of you.
No,
But yeah, yeah. But if we try to do our own thing, then it's you know
absolutely. I mean, part of my conversion story is all about that. Taking the time to humble yourself and recognize you need the Savior, and that just giving yourself, stop trying to control everything, giving yourself up to Him and following His path,
yes,
following the
yes.
signs, because there are signs. I mean,
Oh,
I don't want to
absolutely.
get too much into personal experience or any divine anything, but there's clearly signs more than coincidence.
Yes,
That you can
yes,
see in your life. And I've seen all the signs that this is the right path and everything's worked out so well for us that I can't help but feel that, He's behind us in this, and it's His will. And that's all I want. And I pray, to continually for Him to show us the path and for us to keep doing His will. And it's just that verse says it a lot. And
yeah.
I even put something in my vows. It was 2 Timothy, I think. I don't remember the verse, but it was talking about like um,
Mm-hmm.
serving your wife and just being a good husband. I don't know if it mentioned.
I do remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
wrote
don't have the
that
verse
as
in
well.
front of
Yeah,
me, but it was like perfect. I was like looking like, oh
yeah,
dang, and it's Timothy. That's sweet.
yeah.
But it said you need
Right.
to basically like be the good husband and the good father and the family man and show your family to Christ, or else you're not someone of the faith. You're as bad as
Oh,
someone
yeah,
who rejects
yeah,
the faith.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. That's pretty curious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One verse I actually was thinking about in regards to your journey, like actually this week, and it was brief. I don't know what I was doing, but I was just thinking of it, because I was thinking to myself how um, God has been so faithful, like with your family, and making sure that you guys are maintained and that you have everything that you need, the family connection and all these things. And I was remembering in Proverbs, the Bible says, "He who finds a wife, finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord."
Yeah.
And I was just thinking to myself, being obedient to God with, your decision to move forward with marrying your wife, and God's honoring you. He's honoring you.
Yeah.
He is, and He's
I'm
going to continue to do that.
I'm feeling the blessings absolutely. And when I
Yeah.
Julie took a picture and posted on Instagram of like me when I read the Bible to Aurora and stuff, and she looks so
I
cute.
seen it. I
She looks
seen
so
it.
cute in that photo,
Like,
and the
oh,
other
look at
ones.
Aurora with
Yeah,
the evidence Bible.
and I'm just like yeah, I can't. I just get emotional about it. Like it's
Yeah, it's
just,
beautiful. It's
how can I
beautiful.
describe that other than God's grace? Like it's
There you go.
why would I deserve something like that, right? Like out of everybody, and how could I make something so pure and so beautiful?
Yeah.
And it's just all I want is to just do everything right and do everything good
Yeah.
for them, right?
Yes. 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 Love it, man. It's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Beautiful. God is so faithful, man. He's faithful.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, we can kind of just go right into religion then, unless you got some philosophical gems for us last second, some
No, no,
curveballs.
actually, no, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
To kind of lead off with this here, we already said a lot of good stuff, a lot of great
Yeah, I was gonna
messages.
say, yeah, we hit a lot of stuff, man.
But I did want to talk about now in the Bible. I'm in the book of Joshua, probably like halfway
Okay.
through. And Joshua is the leader that took up after Moses.
Right.
What happened was they got to the land of the promised land, and then they sent some scouts in there. Joshua was one of those scouts, and they came back and they were talking about how like, oh, we can't, like, it's great, but we can't do that because they'll kill us. They're very powerful. And Joshua was like, no, like, we got big man. Like, just have some faith, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so God kind of saw favor in him versus everyone else that was doubting. And
Yes.
after Moses passed, he passed it on to Joshua, and now Joshua leads them. And I gotta say, this past chapter, I want to say it's like 17 or something,
Okay. Okay. I was gonna ask. Okay.
but it's getting to where they're taking the promised land. They're
Oh yeah.
they're there. Like they're not. It's time.
Yeah. Oh
Time
yeah.
has
Yeah.
come for the Israelites. Like the old generation, the bad
Yeah.
non-believers that always tested God, they're gone. They're dead.
Yeah.
They're buried in the desert. It's time
Oh
for
yeah.
the
It's
new
showtime now. It's
generation
showtime.
to come and take that holy land, right? The original pilgrimage. But it's really cool because there's all these sections about like these are the armies that Moses had conquered. These are the armies that Joshua had conquered, right?
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a Lord of the Rings type story where there's like all
Okay.
these kingdoms, there's all these kings, and there's motives and there's reasons behind them, what they do, how they interact with the Israelites, and how they don't. Um, Again, a lot of stuff to remember, a lot of names and stuff, and I'm practicing my Hebrew, like Lizhech and Og and Hashlem and Lebanon and or Lebanon, whatever. But
Uh,
there's a bunch of kings of different nations, and so some of them are hostile towards Israel. So a lot of them, and almost not all, every one of them has heard of God's work in Egypt
yeah.
and
Yeah.
what the Israelites are this traveling band of giant people. Not gi- there are what's crazy. There's giants. There was
Yeah.
giants in the Bible, but we'll get to that some other time. But this band of traveling people, like in the thousands, and almost like a raiding party, right? You hear like it reminded me of stories of like that they would say about the Vikings when they came and raided England, and
Yeah.
everything of like they're just fearful of these people that God's behind them and what they see the track record. Oh, they did this to that king and they did this to this kingdom and they sacked that town and did all this, right? And so you constantly find that they're scared and they're like, we know of what your God has done in Egypt. We know of what you have done to the other people across the Jordan, and for that reason we come to reason with you or not, right? There's actually two nations that went in trying to disguise themselves as they were from far off lands and they wanted to negotiate, but they saw through that and they were like, why should we not kill you now? And they're like, please, please, we saw what your God did and we just don't want to die. So they let them be like, I guess, workers for them as far as, they took them into the fold.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I just love this part I'm in, after going through numbers and everything that's like so rigid and like not very
Yeah.
relevant
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
current times and literally just describing priestly garments to like some scale wars and like kingdoms at battle and that's the stuff I love. And it was actually interesting when they went into the town. It wasn't Jerusalem, but the first town that they kind of invade or they're going to, they send a scouting party and this lady, what?
Talking about Jericho.
Yeah, yeah. This lady harbors these two people, right? And shows them like doesn't give them out to the authorities, and then but she's bargaining with them. She's like, "Look, I know you guys are going to come in here, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've let you. We've sent the authorities the other way. Just when you guys come and raid, you leave this house alone, right? And get our family here, and we'll make a covenant with you." And so they left a little red scarf or whatever in the window, and they were saved from all the onslaught. And it's just funny how often and how self-criticizing God and Joshua is of the people of Israel. Even if there's one person that like took spoils that weren't belonging to him or did something dishonorable, um,
Mhm.
they're quick to deal with and punish and remove them from the flock, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's prevalent all throughout the Old Testament that I've read is just immediately
Yeah.
displace the evil in your life away from you.
They didn't tolerate it. Yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't tolerated.
Um, and they had harsher punishments back then as far as like stoning and everything, which is actually can kind of naturally flow into like today's Sunday message that our pastor gave, was talking about. He made the message of like if we're pro-life, we need to be pro-life after birth as well, right? Obviously, and caring,
Amen.
yes, caring for people regardless, right? And I totally agree with that. And what I was considering was, what about that extends to the death penalty as well? If we don't have the right to kill anybody in general, then that wouldn't that be the case for the death penalty? But then I'm thinking about all the stuff I'm reading right now, and it's like, no, they had the death penalty back then. God for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
you know, ha-
yeah. It was very clear. God was very clear. If you take someone's life, you're forfeiting yours.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
not. You have more. You've read more of the Bible. You're more scripture versed. I don't know if things kind of change with the addition of Christ and everything, in the New Testament. But yeah, I guess I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that as far as death penalty, pro-life, the pro-life stance being for life for everybody, right? And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll keep it real simple. I believe that if someone, for example, rapes a woman, um, I believe strongly in the death penalty for that person.
Mm,
They do not have the right to impose their will on another person, and I think that it's important that a society practices something like that to demonstrate to everyone else that is even considering that this is going to be the cost
yeah,
if you, yeah, impose your will on a woman. This is going to cost you everything. So yeah, I currently believe that, yeah, any person that's sexually assaulting man, woman, children, yeah, death penalty for sure. And I think it's important that society sees that because
hmm,
yeah, in the Old Testament, even though we have a lot of rough guidelines, you'll find that a lot of these elements or things didn't take place because everyone understood.
yeah,
If you're rebellious against your parents, it was going to cost you your life. So everyone understood, I'm not going to do that. So I think what's actually happening in our society today is we don't have those things, the way that we should. So yeah, people are like, okay, well, yeah, I can do whatever I want because it's worth it. I'll
but
still be alive. Everyone will be a little bit more, lenient with me. And yeah, I could take, $800 worth of things from Target, but as long as I don't go over a certain limit, I'm okay. It
yeah,
won't be as much. Yeah. So so we're actually, in my opinion, we're not
encouraging
doing a very,
that behavior.
we're,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
and I've learned all about incentives and economics and everything this past time. I'm making a lot of posts and everything about incentives and acting in everyone's best self-interest, right, and how that affects
There
everyone's
you go.
decision making. But what does that kind of how does that relate to people that are uh, tried and guilty when they're actually innocent? There's tons of people that are serving prison sentences and people that were put to death that were innocent, right? How does that like where do
Absolutely.
we draw the line there? Is there a line that we can draw?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, unfortunately, we live in a,
Imperfect
you know,
world, original sin, and all that.
yeah, 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 yeah. So it's yeah, there are going to be times where yeah, that's going to take place. I mean, I think it's very important that we do a good job or the best job that we can to be thorough when it comes to investigations and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of situations where yeah, a lot of things weren't taken into account. So yeah, there are innocent people that serve these crazy even sentences, and it's not until later on, 20, 30 years later, somebody's looking up a cold case or something old, and they're, oh, hey, this person's actually innocent. Look, it's the other person, and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, yeah, we live in a society like that. But yeah, I just think when it comes to things that are, um, especially like not really, they're not. I guess there's strong evidence that corroborative evidence that all points to the same thing. We have the person sneaking in on the camera. We have maybe I don't want to get too graphic, but we have evidence on the woman that this
yeah.
took place from this specific person. Yes, I think elements like that should be considered. And yeah, we should definitely not tolerate things like that. But yeah, I think do the best job we can when it comes to uh, capital punishment. I think it's important to actually still have it. But I also think it's kind of twisted that we have a society that will have somebody that decides to sexually abuse, let's say, a woman, um, and then somehow come to the conclusion that the baby deserves the death penalty for the sins of the father,
Oh
but they won't
yeah,
care
that's
even but they won't consider you know the father needs to be punished. They'll punish the baby in the womb, which doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, could you imagine if we started implementing that all over the world? It's
yeah,
like,
that's awful.
hey, Tim, yeah, your father did this thing, so yeah, we're gonna be taking you in. It's like, hey, wait a minute,
Yeah,
that's him, that's him. He did that, not me.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very, we're in a very twisted, yeah,
It's an
place
interesting
in our
comparison.
society. It is. But yeah, I actually feel very strongly about um, things like assaulting women and children and vulnerable men as well. It's just I think it's because it just makes it I don't know it's yeah it's really it sounds kind of rough, but it really helps to have a line in the sand drawn. It's like, hey, you murder somebody, well, you're going to forfeit your life, and so this is why you didn't see a lot of issues in the Old Testament, just because there was a straight guideline. Hey, you do this, this is what's going to happen, and they don't live in that time anymore.
Yeah, I just think it's a lot. I mean, maybe not more complicated now, but just all the,
Okay.
you know,
Hmm.
having that deterrent maybe won't do the best. Because if we're just quicker to kill people, that then a lot more innocent people will die for it, and maybe we're right, maybe
Okay.
we're not. But I mean, I don't know how you feel about OJ, but I don't know. He got off, and there's other people that will too. It's a flawed system.
Yeah, I would
Um,
agree. I would agree. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, we live in a a cursed world, so there are going to be situations like that. One thing that does help me sleep at night is the fact that um, people may get past the authorities and the government. They may slip past investigations. They may outsmart the scientists and the people that are, the FBI. They may get past all these people, but they're not going to get past God.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're not going to pass them. Yeah, and every single thing that they deserve, they're going to get it poured out on them on Judgment Day, and God's going to be waiting for
Unless they convert to Jesus Christ as a savior at the last second. What are your thoughts on that?
them. Well, the only tricky part about that is, and this is actually essentially why I don't hesitate to share the gospel with people if I learn that they're not Christian. Is it's not like death emails us ahead of time and says, "Hey, by the way, in about a week I'll be," well, it's like we don't know. Even you and I, we can't say, well, for sure we're going to be alive tomorrow to see tomorrow's sunrise. We don't know
Yeah,
that. We can hope and wish, if the Lord wishes, but we don't know that because we live in a time where I don't know, something could be leaking. The gas could be leaking tonight, and all sorts of things that can take place. So it's that's why the Bible encourages for us to really share the gospel. And this is actually what I find that I'm living for is really that. To me, it's like everything else is secondary.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind finding a lovely wife or getting a nice body or money. That's cool, and I don't mind getting all those things. That'll be cool. That'll be as long as I can honor God with those things, that's cool. But yeah, my first thing is this world is deteriorating. It will not be here forever. But we need to figure out how many people can we share the gospel with? Because the only way that things are going to truly change is not by self-help coaches, but a changed life, a changed heart. And the only person that is capable of doing that is God. There's a lot of people that think that if they just kind of develop or cultivate some type of healthy mindset, they're going to save themselves. But Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitfully wicked and desperately wicked. Who can understand it? So the heart is not what you want to rely on. The
yeah.
Bible tells, yeah, it's God. So, but yeah, no, it's yeah. Unfortunately, we do live in a flawed world. So, not everything's going to get cleaned up in this lifetime, but it will. God's very good at being thorough. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
can
fair.
sleep very good at night for knowing that.
Yeah, I'm just having some of these more philosophical debates about that religion stuff, and I know we got into it a little bit last time about evolution and
Hmm.
things, and it got me like wanting to look up more videos and things because growing up and everybody else, like you're teached evolution and everything. It's very kind of core to you, I would say. It's hard to like undo all those years of
Oh yeah,
teaching,
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah,
far
yeah.
as and you are so you're a young Earth creationist, right? That's what its official title, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I would say that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, I'm just only giving it that framework because I watched, I guess, conversation between the young Earth creationist and then an old Earth creationist, which I didn't know was a thing. They
Yeah.
conceive the world of the ages as I guess science would say or whatever, and but still it was creationist, right? And then people that take evolution and but have God as the cause behind it. So it was those three kind of ideas, and they were presented, and it was interesting. But I feel like if I really want to decipher it, I gotta take notes during it because I was just watching it and thinking of it at the time, but I can't like really decipher too much of what was said at the time, right?
Mm,
But it was I don't know. It's like on the one hand with the young earth creationism, it's all about like if you have flaws with this, then you have flaws with the Bible, and that and ultimately isn't that leads you astray, right? The Bible is sound, the Bible is factual, it's one, it's God's word, and that is perfect, and it's will be true forever, right?
mm,
And other people were making not like were making light of that or like saying talking of it as maybe like a parable, and there's parables that are used in the
mhm.
Bible, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know having to know the context of it, but it's clear that I think Jesus and maybe Paul, they both reference Genesis as like, literal.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
that's fact. Well,
um,
uh,
go ahead.
yeah, let me just, yeah, yeah. It's interesting because, I obviously I get in a lot of discussions with atheists and evolutionists, and
Yeah.
it's very rare I meet Christians that adopt this, but but some do. And obviously I had to do my own research to kind of look into why I stand where I stand. Not only just kind of being swept up in the movement of, oh, hey, young earth creationists, but actually find out, okay, why do I even believe that?
Yeah.
Um, so there's just two elements I'll share, and maybe it's helpful for our viewers as well, and maybe it's helpful for you, or even kind of point anyone who's interested in looking into this in the right direction. The first thing I'll share is that the Hebrew word for day in Genesis is the word yom, Yom, and it just simply means a 24-hour day cycle. So that's one foundational fact that I learned in the Answers in Genesis, which is phenomenal ministry. I recommend everyone to check out. They're in Kentucky. It's by Ken Ham. So he's the one with the Life Size Ark in Kentucky, and it's gigantic. It's actually 3 stories high, and it has the exact measurements that the Bible provided Noah when it came to building the ark. So the thing is huge. It's if I remember correctly, it's in regards to its length, it's about a football field football field and a half. So it's huge. It's huge. Yeah. So it'll take about 2 3 days just to get through that whole thing if you wanted to. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about driving out there to be honest with
Are you
you.
serious?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
To see
really
it?
want to see it. And then
That's
there's a
cool.
Creation Museum on the same property, which is something else. So I would
Yeah.
probably need to be almost 3 4 days if I wanted to be thorough. But yeah, the other thing, and this is a little bit more, in my opinion, something solid to consider is the genealogies in the Bible. If you actually calculate um, each of them, they let you know from Adam all the way to Jesus, which is Jesus is about 2,000 years ago. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, Jesus, the way that we register or we label our years is based on
Yeah.
Jesus exist.
Jesus. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So yeah, obviously 2022 is 2022 years since
After his
Jesus was.
death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, correct. Yeah. So if you actually calculate, and the Bible provides the genealogies and even the ages of people, you can actually calculate that the world is under 10,000 years old based on, what we have, just calculating the names of each person within the genealogy. And there are areas where it lets you know how old they lived. So you can actually find out, for example, who's the oldest and things like that. So yeah, kind of going back to what you said, yeah, it's almost like saying, well, yeah, Bible, I know you're the word of God, but you're wrong. Yeah. I think the world is older. It's like, okay, then what do you do with that information? What does a person do? And the Bible's telling you how old these people were, and Jesus, which was born 2,000 years ago, was that last point. So yeah, so it's kind of hard to argue. It's almost like you have to.
It's just a bunch of writings from a bunch of people, James.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
are you
yeah,
talking
exactly,
about? How
exactly,
can you take
exactly.
that for
Yeah.
face value? Come on.
Well, yeah, 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 and there are a lot of arguments in regards to, oh, okay, well, that's just poetry and things like that. But yeah, it's just when you look into it, you say, oh, okay, this is why there's no room for that. There's no room for that other perspective unless somebody puts it there.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's the only. But yeah, I don't get flustered with those discussions. I just share some of the things I shared with you, and then I point them in that direction, and say, hey,
The,
you can take it or leave it. Just put it on the table.
yeah, no, put it on the table again. The biggest thing I think that I found with that, and they mentioned it in that discussion too, was that it's not pivotal to being saved, right? To accepting the gospel and accepting Jesus Christ as your Savior and realizing all of that, like the lineage and everything, the genesis of the earth and all that. They can have those disagreements, and it's not pivotal to being saved. But with everything I've learned about biblical Christianity and everything that I've learned from you and other people, I'm just trying to find more ways to establish, like, yeah, I know the Bible is truth, right? And to get these answers from the Bible and reading it every day and seeing all the signs in my day-to-day life and the improvements I've gotten just from reading it, right? All those profound messages I think are relevant. And so that's kind of the big thing is like, yeah, it doesn't, you're still saved, but I think kind of figuring out where you stand is important too. And like I said, with young earth creationism, it makes that's what the Bible tells. That's what the Bible preaches, right?
Yeah. And here's what's essential with this because um, essentially, if a person says, let's just say I decided that I don't support the Bible when it comes to the genealogies and basically you calculating it to under 10,000 years old. Like it's like saying, okay, well, I'm willing to accept these other elements of the Bible, but I'm not going to accept that. This
Yeah.
part is odd, but the other stuff is right. Even if a person says, well, I just this one little section I don't support, but everything else I can buy into. It's almost like saying, well, God, I don't entirely believe you.
Yeah,
I, yeah, yeah, it's like a buffet. I'll take the stuff I like and I'll just leave the stuff I don't like.
and that's the thing. They mentioned, I don't know where it says in the Bible, but it's the Bible is clear enough that everyone can understand it from reading it, right? And that was the big part of the Reformation is that no, I don't need you to explain it to me. It's right here, right? Just read it for yourself, and it is written in such a way, and like you say all the time, that verse, I guess, God's word will be passed down throughout generations. It won't die.
Yeah, there's different verses. I mean, one of the ones I like to allude to is what Jesus said, Matthew 24:35. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my
That's it.
words will by no means pass away.
That's it.
Yeah. So
So,
yeah, either Jesus is telling the truth or he isn't.
mhm. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the key of why the Bible should be able to be interpreted by anybody that picks it up and reads it. It's in such a language and written in such a way that you should be able to understand its meaning. It says it's a day. It says that means one day, right? The 7 days,
Right.
it means those 7 days. And when you kind of complicate that, you're not taking it for its face value, and then you're using, like you said, you're cherry picking what you want, and then what? Now you're the interpreter, and now you
Oh
see
yeah.
yourself above, God or
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
aspects.
Yeah. It's what's really troublesome about this, Timothy, and this is why I kind of take this topic seriously, and I would encourage anybody listening who is a Christian walking with the Lord to also take this into account. Is that we don't often like to talk about this topic, but there are people that actually masquerade or believe essentially that there are Christians because they met up with a pastor, they were talking to somebody, they said a special prayer, and started, I guess, visiting some type of building different times, maybe a church building, and they're just going there once or twice a week, and maybe even reading the Bible, and they just say, okay, now that I'm subscribed to all these, religious activities, I'm a Christian, and no one else has the right to challenge that. And what happens often is that there are some people that are genuine believers, and over time they're going to fall, but they're going to get back up, and God's going to pull them up and strengthen them. But then you have other people that they will masquerade as Christians, and sometimes they're aware that they're not a Christian, or sometimes um, they may be under the illusion, but they are what we would call a false convert. These are
Yeah.
people that and often we have many of the cults that believe that they're a Christian today. They started from people that they didn't like what the Bible said. They rejected certain things, so they rewrote or reassign certain ideas. You know, Joseph Smith Jr., who started the Mormon faith, he didn't like the doctrine of hell, so he rewrote it. You know, so now there's three heavens according to the Mormon faith, and now you and I can become gods if we join the Mormon faith. You and me, and we'll inherit a whole planet, and we'll have plenty of women, and you know we can inhabit a whole planet for ourselves, and yeah, we're all and so they'll completely reinterpret. So it's important to stay solid to what the Bible teaches. So when a person says, "Well, hey, I don't really believe God entirely," to me, it's like, okay, I kind of have to pay attention to that person a little bit more. And I don't know if they're just going through this necessary stage where God is cultivating them, closer and closer to His heart, or they're really not ever going to grow, and they're really just somebody who's, maybe they're under the illusion they're walking with the Lord. And I know it's, like I said, I know it's an uncomfortable topic, but I've learned, especially in the Reformed community, it's something that we're really big on is making that distinction, because there are people that we can be very close to, and they will all of a sudden say, "Hey, by the way, like I supposedly was a Christian the last 40 years, and now I'm not." And so the Bible teaches that. Well, 1 John 2:1, 2:19.
Ding, ding,
It says
ding.
they, yeah, they say it. It says they came out from us, but they were never of us. Because it said, yeah, they came out from us, but they were never of us. Because if they were able to leave, they weren't a genuine believer. Essentially, they weren't a genuine believer. If you were able to leave biblical Christianity, then you weren't a believer to begin with. So it's really,
Yeah.
because the Bible teaches that God, when He's responsible for your faith, you won't go anywhere. You'll fall, you'll make mistakes, but you're going to become holy over time. He's going to encourage you Himself.
Yeah.
And remember, like and that's this difference between biblical Christianity is God is the one that initiates our faith. It's not us deciding one day, "Hey, I think I'm going to be a Christian today." It's and the difference is all the other religions, they're trying to work their way into heaven by doing good works. And with Christianity, God changes us, and then we do good works after we're changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's but this is why it's important. If somebody says, "Oh, yeah, I believe all the other 66 books of the Bible, but but this one part I don't believe," it's like
Either
it's
all
kind of
in or all out.
foundation. Yeah, it's kind of that's the foundation of the whole book.
Yeah.
That's the
Literally the
foundation
starting
right
point.
there. Right.
Yeah.
The first 10 words, man. Yeah. So it's yeah. I mean, I don't go crazy on people, but I think it's just important to kind of keep that in mind. Like, see where they are. There's a difference between somebody that takes a position like that, but you can see that they're open to listening and looking into things. And then you have some people, they're like, "Hey, I've already decided this is what it is. That's what it is."
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And those people, I think we have to be kind of mindful of.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, some good topics today.
I'm telling you, man, this one's like really full. This
Yeah, this
episode
is
is
not much fluff either. It's kind of compact, a little shorter, but it's like direct, like getting stuff done.
yeah, there you
Certain
go. There you go.
messages,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I guess we can just go to our last, section for questions. That'll be good. Uh, so one of them did come from my mom. It was under one of the comments on YouTube.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, I can pull up the exact thing, but it was
Okay.
essentially asking about because we were talking about Superman and Man of Steel and all that, and how I guess if we had seen the older movies, what we thought of them and how they kind of compare to the new one and the direction of Superman. I'm pretty sure that was the gist of it. You
Like
st-
Christopher Reeve type of.
yes, big man. So I guess you kind of start with your opinion on that. I'm gonna look it up to be sure we got it right, and
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much to say about this, except I really love how Christopher Reeves carried himself when it came to the Superman persona. I kind of
Yeah,
feel like when it came to like Batman and Superman, both of these characters have obviously evolved. It's funny to see how, like, the Batman, for example, he used to be out in daylight. He used to, on the show, he used to get on the bus with everybody and talk to people. And yeah,
talking about the
Adam
animated
West.
show or with Adam West.
Yeah, old shows. Yeah, Adam
Okay.
West. Yeah, and so Superman, I kind of feel like, he kind of had this positive attitude as well, but I almost feel like he became a little bit more like almost holier um, over time. Like he's just someone that he's established like these guidelines, and he's just not breaking them for anyone. And even if he loses his powers, he's still willing to fight and sacrifice himself, if need be. So I feel like with Superman, if anything, in regards to his character, his integrity, like they almost make him seem like he's like, I don't know, like the perfect guy.
Yeah.
They always, almost,
In the
he's
Christopher
like,
Reeves one you said?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, I really, for me, Henry Cavill does it. Like I feel like he provides the whole package,
Hmm.
everything. I love the way he carries himself as Superman. I love the way that everything, everything. Even in Batman versus Superman, when he kind of had a bit of an attitude and it was a little, um, gosh, I don't know what the word is. I don't know. I really loved how he carried himself. But yeah, I still love Christopher Reeves. I mean, even though he didn't have like the modern day Superman muscles that I feel like the standard of the modern times has kind of put on him.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves definitely carried himself in a way where it was very inspirational, and he definitely set the standard for all Superman projects.
No, yeah, you're right there. And I think about uh you just said his name, the new Superman Man of Steel.
Henry
Cavill.
Cavill.
Yeah. I think he does really a really good job.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's just stoic and very, you know, just Superman like, I guess. And Christopher
Yeah,
Reeves kind of
yeah.
definitely laid the foundation. I loved the first movie. I haven't seen the other two, I don't think. The first one is the first one just Lex Luthor, and the second one maybe has Zod and all them? Or
Yeah, I
is
think so. I think so.
okay.
Yeah.
I just remember in I think it was the first one. He just like literally he gets so upset that Lois Lane dies that he's sorry
Oh,
spoilers for a movie that came out like 40 years ago. But yeah, and
this
he's
is when
just
he
like
went around the planet, and this is when he went around
yeah,
and
and he's
went
just
back.
flying around the planet to reverse time.
That
and,
was insane. That was insane.
and everything just kind of goes back,
Yeah.
right? Like he just reverses time because he doesn't want his girl to die. Um, which is so
Oh,
funny.
oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
That's
so
wild.
so I guess the original. I would like to know what you guys think of the original Superman movies from the '70s. Have you both watched them? How would you review them? So yeah, definitely they're classics. I remember just kind of Lex Luthor is super awesome. I just love his motives and everything. And in that movie, his whole scene, I think, putting the kryptonite on him and everything. He's just always
Yeah,
acting so
yeah,
suave and above him, and Superman just overcomes it. I have to watch him again to kind of get a full
yeah. Same
review.
here.
But
I remember a little bit. I just remember the Zod one actually,
mhm.
mostly. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I just love. Um, I mean, even though the effects we have today is phenomenal. Yeah, the way Superman carried himself, even in the classic stuff, and I feel like Christopher Reeves did like the best job in regards to the standard of what how Superman is in a live action project.
Yeah,
I think it's easier to do it in a comic book or a cartoon, but I don't know. There's something different about seeing Superman portrayed actually in an actual film.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah. But Christopher Reeves did a phenomenal job. I feel like the way he did his Superman, like you can't really get tired of really appreciating that. Now I think there was like at least four, so I don't know. I think the third and fourth one wasn't as popular as the first two.
Uh huh.
I think I have some type of yeah. I think I have some type of combination movie somewhere of the four films, but I think the first two was just the
Good stuff.
best.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I'm familiar with. So, and then another question she had was if had we watched the series Raised by Wolves? It's a sci-fi series that has characters as robots and androids acting like humans. We had talked about that stuff the other podcast.
I don't know. I have not watched that, but I actually was thinking about watching it because I have HBO Max, and I know that I forgot her name, Daphne something. She's in it, and she was in the Logan movie with Hugh Jackman. And
Hmm.
so I actually wanted to keep up with her, what she's been doing, but I know that the young girl
Okay,
who,
X-23.
yeah, there you go,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, but yeah, if your mom's bringing it up, then maybe it's a legit show. So maybe I'll
I don't
give it
know. I don't know if I can trust that woman's opinions on films or anything. Don't mean to
a.
throw her under the bus,
No, she's
Mom.
gonna get, she's gonna get you. She's gonna get you.
She still has some work to do. We had set
Soon
out
as you
on a
upload. soon
Yeah.
as you upload this, he's gonna like be calling you like,
Yeah.
hey.
We had set out on a mission to watch like the whole MCU because she hadn't seen it, and we got maybe
Oh,
like
damn.
two.
Oh,
What did we get to? Thor, the first Thor. It's like
yeah.
I don't even remember what we got
No, no,
to.
no. Did we? I thought we made it to Avengers.
Maybe it was Avengers that we made it
The
to.
first one. First one, yeah.
Um, is my baby
Oh,
awake? You can let me hold my baby. Show the people.
I'm running to
Um.
the bathroom real quick.
Oh yeah, sure. We can take a little break
All
real
right.
quick.
Yeah. Show everyone the roar.
Come here.
I was gonna go over to ATV.
Okay. Hi, Aurora. Say hi. Say hi to the people. This is my little baby. Yeah, she's like, I need to change. Hi, baby. Did you have a good nap? Did you have a good nap? Yeah, we were taking a little break, so you guys were fine.
You can come out. He's not.
Oh, it's recording, but I'll just edit it out.
Yeah.
I should guess so 220. Wait, you have Girl Scout cookies?
Hey, the mint.
Yeah, she said Thin Mints. Say hi, baby. That's James. Say hi. Okay, so I didn't stop recording, so we'll just edit it out later.
Gotcha.
We're gonna continue here. We're almost done, like 15, 20 minutes. Wife, sister. I need like 15 or 20 minutes. We're gonna continue here.
Yeah. I was just walking over to Caitlin's room because I saw her door was open. So
Okay.
I'll catch up as a week.
Bye, Aurora.
James said bye. Bye, Aurora.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that she
I like these questions. I like
They're
them.
good
Fun. They're
questions.
fun, easygoing. I like them.
yeah. Okay, so what are you so you're gonna talk about your question then?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I had a gentleman on my Instagram, and I told him, I would, share this section of, how we respond to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually sharing this question with the both of us, and he said, let's see, I have it written down here. He says, "How does a Christian approach and/or deal with a balance of patriotism biblically? How does a
Oh.
Christian approach and/or deal with and balance patriotism biblically?"
So I know in somewhere in that good book, it says to like follow the law, follow your governments, right? Or just not be subordinate, but just basically follow the law. As far as patriotism is like in just loving your country over as like more than anything, that gets into idolship, and that's not good either, right?
I agree.
But yeah, from a biblical standpoint, I don't see why the two can't coincide. I just, with moderation with everything, right? And also as far as, it's great to be patriotic and everything, and I'm very patriotic, but it's also about like prioritizing your life, right? And I think some of the things we might have talked about like are wise, right? Like mine, more family, James, evangelism and God spreading his everything. There are things that can come first. In our
Mm.
opinions, you can think what you want, but I mean, first of all, God is number one. You need to accept that in your life, and that would be, first. So just getting those priorities right, and I think a couple things would come before patriotism, and especially with all the stuff going on right now, I would say like there's a couple things I'm worried about more than going over the seas and fighting in some war.
Oh, very well said, my friend. Very well said. I appreciate that answer, man, because
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I have the verse written down because I know everyone always brings it up. And I have Romans 13:1. It says, "Let every
Ding ding
person
ding.
be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority over authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. So the only reason why we have a government is because God put them there.
Yeah.
According to the Bible, that's Romans, the infamous Romans 13. Everyone loves to go to kind of say, hey, government has its role. But obviously, and one of the things we shared is, the government and essentially the country. People can be led astray. There are a lot of wicked things that do take place in our country. So I think it's important to kind of balance the two. And I like a lot of what you said. The idea of really not going into idolatry necessarily when it comes to loving our country, and I think that's one of the challenges that I'm encountering, is being like somebody who identifies as a conservative now. That was one of my biggest challenges, and I think that was literally my first video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Was really just realizing there's a lot of people on the right that when it comes to morality, when it comes to justice, when it comes to all these things, God is not the center. God is not the foundation. It's the United States Constitution. And what I like what you said is God is first, and for them, God is not first. It's the founding fathers are first. It's America first.
But they put God first, and what? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. No, but that exactly.
It's interwoven.
But there are people that, they see the United States Constitution as the greatest document that ever was created, even over the Bible. Which doesn't make sense because So I think.
I think it's pretty good, but
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but I think, I think it's important just to have a balance, and even when it comes to President Trump, I think honestly, and this is my personal opinion, I think he's one of the greatest presidents that we ever had in United States history, personally. But
with Lincoln up there and everything.
But
You're
absolutely.
Really?
I'm willing to defend that.
I'm sure you are.
But also, I'm not into like the Trumpism. I'm not into that. I'm not into making him some type of idol. There are some.
Well, see, those two statements seem a little contradictory, but maybe it's obviously all like.
I'm not into putting Trump before Christ or before
So if Jesus was one of the presidents, he would be number one. That's what you're saying.
Hey, there you go. I have another verse I wanted to share, and I think it's kind of relevant. It's in Acts 5:29. So Acts is, of course, the book where we first get the church in the first century. This is the first time it shows up, and these guidelines are being established. But it says Peter and the other apostles replied, and they're applying to the Jewish authorities of the Sanhedrin. They're saying. And Peter and the other apostles replied, we must obey God rather than human beings. So the idea, of course, is, God, Romans 13, it did establish, government. So it's important to know that our country, our government, it does have a role, and I don't see any issue with appreciating certain elements of that. And at the same time, to keep in mind that God always comes first, Like even if the government itself says something that is the opposite of what the Bible teaches, we know that as Christians, we follow God, not the government, But I think as far as patriotism specifically, I think it's perfectly healthy to be proud of the country that we have. I think, in my personal opinion, the United States is the greatest country that has ever existed in human history.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. This is why so many people are fighting to get over here. They know if they put in the hard work, something that you were alluding to earlier, they can have just about anything. And I know plenty of people that came here legally, and now they have homes and they have great property and they've started a business because they're willing to put in the work. This is the place to do that. So, there's a balance for it.
What's interesting is like all these, we got into a little doom and gloom last time, alluded to it because of the concept of these great nations that have all kind of that were diverse, that had these big statutes and republics, right? They don't last typically too long, and we're kind of reaching some of those years. And history does repeat itself and all that, but I think we do have something special. It's by no means perfect. There's a lot to improve, and there's a lot of bad, terrible things we've done, and we're seeing, especially in the foreign community, our foreign policy has been garbage for who knows how long, and the way we're seen as other people's as aggressors because we've been the world's police force for a while or whatever, right? that's kind of getting us into some of the trouble we're in now. But apart from that, it's it's I really like it because it's one of the like it seems not utopian because it's not, but it's what we kind of strive for, I think, as a human race, because every other country has like a much larger like base population, like lack of diversity, right? Where this one, it's so diverse. It's like there's so many cultures here, and there's so many different places that it's like the big melding pot, right? Everyone's coming here to try and have opportunity and succeed and interact with each other, and that comes with a lot of difficulties that other countries don't have to deal with, you know. And it could be said that, you know, they're not as diverse; they don't have to deal with all these other problems that come with it. And you know, I just love the opportunity it presents. There's a lot to be done here. It's not perfect. There's a lot we could do better, but the biggest thing is like the opportunity and the freedom and the kind of the base, I was about to say commandments, the base constitution and the amendments to it, right? It's a very good, I think, framework for some core values of like you said, freedom of speech, you know, right to bear arms and all that stuff, right to protect yourselves against tyranny. It's just a really good framework from people that came out fighting for something against the tyrannical government, right?
Right. Right.
Like I said, it is getting kind of crazy now, and I don't know necessarily all the answers. Like I said, my whole thing is just like focus on what you can control, get your house in order, make sure your kids are raised right, and treat people right. And what's interesting as far as like a governmental system, because all the politicians we have now, like it just incentivizes corruption and it kind of like the whole draining the swamp thing, right? How Washington's like everyone owes everyone a favor, and that leads into why nothing can get done, and it's all gridlock, right? It's just a cesspool of like BS in my opinion. So I think when I'm trying to think like, okay, well, what would a better government structure be? It's one that people won't like or support because they won't always get the voice, right? And I think a monarchy or a dictatorship in the sense where the person you know that's in charge is truly just and is truly like has your best interest at heart, is someone that's brave, that will stand up for you, like that's kind of, I think, the ideal. But the problem with that is not only that it's like it doesn't give the people a voice and you just have to trust, right? That leads to its own problems. But let's just say hypothetical utopia, like you know that they are a genuine person. They have their they're not going to succumb to corruption and stuff, and they can lead you in a flock, whatever, righteously, right? And do you just. Then you get into the problem of like, is it like a generational thing? How do you ensure that your kids are going to do that and their kids are going to be the same way? And how long will that last? It's inevitably not going to last. Once the guy or whoever it is done, that kind of falls apart, right? So I'm not sure like kind of where the perfect kind of compromise could come from. I think we have there's a really good shot. I think it's done pretty good and it's put us in this position, but I think there's a lot of scandalous, shady stuff that goes on too. That's not good, you know. A lot of the CIA declassified documents and stuff. Going into that, it's just scary stuff. You know, it's not fun to read. But every country, you know, does stuff like that. Every big country. So really, it's just, I think having those core values of the Constitution and then having a system of representatives is good too, right? Because there's no messiah we have now. There's no one that everyone can trust, right? I think it works for smaller communities, and you see that there's typically one leader, there's one person. But when you're controlling a nation of people, right? It's like, we're doing the best we can here, you know? I think we can, like, improvements need to be made, but I think we got a good structure.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I agree. And like I said, man, I strongly believe we are the greatest country to exist, man. And even the fact that the authority that we have was divided into these three
branches.
You know, branches. I absolutely love that. It was genius. It was genius. It was genius to prevent that tyranny. So it's like we can't even have it. It's like literally the legislator and judicial, you know, branch can say, "Hey, executive, hey, president, we're not doing that. We're not doing that," and vice versa. You know, so I love the system. You know, and it really kind of almost reminds me of, you know, this connection. Almost, you know, I don't want to say it is, but it almost reminds me of like, you know, the Holy Spirit and Jesus
Oh, yeah.
and God kind of working in unison together. It almost reminds me of that. That I don't know. It's amazing. I love the system.
Well,
I
you could
absolutely love
pull
it
a
because
lot of the references from biblical texts and from like faith-based things. It's kind of prevalent in a lot of societies, right? You can
yeah,
kind of find threads and different things that kind of match ideas, right?
yeah, absolutely. It's just but yeah, I love it. I love it, and um, I have somewhat of a optimistic view of our country. I do feel like there are people that not perfect, but they are genuine, and they care about those elements that would found this country. So, and this is actually one of the reasons why I identify as a conservative is I'm one of those people that if I can make a YouTube channel and remind people, hey, we don't have to think one way or we don't have to be indoctrinated by these ideas. Like I'm willing to do it. And if somebody says, hey, can you go and speak in Florida or whatever else, and just share these ideas? Like, yes, I will. I will speak. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying for something like that, for the bigger picture, yes, I am willing to do that. I am
Yeah,
willing to
it's
fight for
important
this
enough to
country.
you to yeah.
Yeah. And I do consider myself a patriot. I do care about what's happening here. I do make it my business to keep up with the news and and yeah, and I agree. We're not a perfect nation, but I think when we compare ourselves, then we realize how blessed we are. When we compare ourselves, that there's still
Oh, for
places in
sure.
other places and other third world countries that you identify as a Christian, you're going to get your tongue cut out, or you're going to be raped and murdered if you're a woman, So this is and over here you can, you and I, if we want today, we can just decide that we identify as a woman, and no one legally can actually, go after us for that. Like we're,
Yeah.
so it's I mean, not that I would encourage that behavior, but yeah, it's just yeah, it's I feel like yeah, when we kind of look at the other ends of yeah, I love that I'm an American citizen. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I don't ever want to take it for granted, And I feel like there's a lot of reminders, especially when we look at what's happening in Ukraine and Russia and stuff like that. I think to myself, no one would ever think about hitting the United States the same way because
Yeah.
like even with how much money we invest in like our military and stuff like that, like it's just they would be almost throwing their lives away to compete with America. Like we invest a lot of money with our military and our defenses and things like that. We invest more money than all the other world combined, you
Yeah.
know. So I feel so protected. And it's sad when I look at Ukraine and Russia, and it's sad, but I'm also thankful that I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
another Hiroshima or whatever else. I don't have to worry about any of that, or these wars like, so I appreciate that.
No, I get you. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not patriotic. I do love this country and I love what it stands for. I just think today, and maybe it's just society overall, not just the West or whatever. It's just a lot of the goals and messages like don't like really fit the old narrative. It's kind of trying to be like new wave and everything, and I don't
Okay,
necessarily
okay.
agree with all of it. And I probably could be more, patriotic too, because I am supportive of like the original like structure and everything. I just think it's
Okay.
got like what I've learned and everything. It's just gotten so corrupt, and it seems so. I get so pessimistic about it, about certain things. I
Okay.
don't see. I'm
Yeah,
not
I can
very
tell. I can tell.
hopeful with it,
It's
and it's even
understandable.
like honest like representatives and stuff. It just seems like it's such gridlock. There's not much to be done, and that's why my stance is like focus on what you can control and your town and your home and who you interact with directly. I think that's where more dramatic change can happen and more where and if everyone does that right, you're better as a whole. Um, but people just inherently have different core values and want different things, and just it's just there's base differences. You can have these discussions, you can reason with people, but some people don't even want to hear it. Other
Mhm.
perspectives, and you know, the abortion issue as like an example is just so terrible, and it's so dividing, and it's just they think it's like about women's rights and they don't think about the baby's rights at all, or about like and there's just no.
Mm.
Some people are just so set in their ways, and it's unfortunate. And I think hopefully everyone kind of matures and changes over time. Even me, if
Mm.
I have something wrong, I hope I can kind of discern through it. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting you bring that up because that was always something that I thought about as well initially when it came to not only my Christian faith, but other ideas like even marriage. There are some people. I don't know how much you're familiar with the manosphere, red pill
Yeah,
community, MGTOW, all these different communities, but yeah, they essentially say marriage is useless.
yeah,
It's ran its course in history, and now it's useless. And the man is at a disadvantage, and it's basically modern day slavery for men. And if things don't work out in the marriage, the man is the one that's going to suffer. So knowing that, I love that you and I, we don't believe that. We don't
yeah.
believe,
No,
and we're not ever going to succumb to that kind of mindset. You as a married man, me as a bachelor, but I love that, and I love that we can, at least in the West, the ideas, the key principles of really making changes is having that necessary discussion. And I have talked to people that supported abortion, and after I was done with them, they completely like renounced that idea anymore because I walked them through different scenarios, just like they were trying to bring up. I would answer them, and I'm not an expert, but I would look into how do I answer these things. And so when it came time to those necessary discussions, I was ready.
yeah,
I was ready. And it's the same thing with my conservative values. I heard Trump speak a few times in 2020, and even like some years before, and then there was Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum and all these different people, Ben Shapiro, and I was listening to them, and I really just wanted to know about the facts, not really their opinions. What are the facts? And I just realized, like, okay, I have different values. I'm not, really on the left. I'm not even in the middle. Like I am. I do have conservative values, and they identify mostly with the Christian values.
yeah,
And yeah, and not saying, well, okay, now I'm a conservative, so now, everything's perfect. There's always going to be work to be done, like you mentioned. Even with our country. But yeah, it's just it's fascinating because I've learned that even for me, I've been coerced to move out of even some type of sometimes dangerous mindsets. Yes, sometimes those discussions are necessary, but I think it's important to kind of prepare ourselves not to just foolishly jump into them. But yeah, but I'm also into the idea of taking care of your family and your home, and that is actually one of the conservative principles that I live by.
yeah,
And it's a Christian principle as well. It's like, yeah, you mentioned it earlier. If you're not even capable of taking care of the family within your own household, you're considered worse than an unbeliever. Like you're not even willing to help your own family in your
yeah,
own household. Yeah, the Bible teaches that. So it's yeah, it's essential. It's essential. But
yeah. No,
yeah, this is yeah,
get,
very. Go
get
ahead. Go ahead.
getting on all. Well, first of all, your boy Ben Shapiro. He didn't like Batman, right? You. Anyway, just throwing that out there, a little jab. But as far as that, like manosphere stuff, I think I've shared with you this privately, but it's just pathetic. It's just people not taking responsibility for their actions and their part in the relationship, and they feel cheated and stuff. And it's like, first, just like grow up, like. As a man, you like this. You shouldn't be worried about stuff like that. You shouldn't be resentful, spiteful towards like women or towards anybody else. Like I mean, sorry, but like, get your shit together. Like just in general. As far as addressing that, but and then the abortion thing. We've talked about this before. How my stance used to be like I'm against it, but it's as far as like being America and being the nation of freedom and everything. I feel like it should be an option.
Mhm.
But when analyzing it more recently, past couple years, it's been like no. When your freedoms end when you're injuring somebody else, right, or taking away their rights. So in that regard, that child that has a life too, and that has rights too. So we can't just like allow stuff like that. But but yeah, this has been it's been really enlightening. That one
Well, I was
question
gonna say,
went really hard. It was like
it was.
light questions, and then it went really hard.
Yeah, that's so funny because I initially said, oh, okay, it seems like a really simple question, but I feel like yeah, uh, it really brought out a thoughts on both our ends. You know,
A
like this
whole
was actually
another 30 or
profound. They've
40
been
minutes
going
of
this direction.
thoughts.
You said what? You said what?
Sorry, a whole nother 30 or 40 minutes of thoughts.
Yeah, right. Seriously, seriously. I was like, wow, that's really, yeah. Honestly, I didn't think, we were gonna have too much to say together in regards to like patriotism and because I don't think we've really touched on politics yet,
No,
but I
we
guess we just
we
did.
haven't too much, yeah. And that's
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
be part of the philosophy part too, but
Okay, okay. So I'll keep that in mind for the future then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And there's, recently I have, learned a little bit more about the Russia-Ukraine situation, but we can, so it's already running pretty long. We can do another thing about that as the
Okay.
situation develops.
Okay. That sounds good.
But yeah, man, appreciate you guys. Like you guys. Thanks for listening. All the stuff, all of our information, if you want to follow us on social media, follow our other YouTube channels, they will be here in the description down below. Be on the lookout for all of that. Watch, keep in track with the social media. We post little clips of little videos. Not everyone gets to the
Yeah.
end, the segments. Yeah, so we put out different videos for that. But yeah, thanks for stopping by.
All right, guys. Blessings and yeah, thank you, Lord, for everything, and thank you, Lord, for just another opportunity just to, speak with my good friend Timothy here, and thank you guys for just joining us.
That's true. Yeah, we usually I forgot ended in a prayer. My bad. My bad.
Not good. All right. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Heavenly Father, thank you just for us having such a productive conversation. And just thank you for everything that you are pouring into our lives. Once again, we know that we don't deserve these things, but you are gracious and you are faithful to your children. And just help us to be effective in the future with what we're doing here. And just thank you for everything. Thank you. And thank you for everyone that this is going to influence and just continue to help us grow and mature. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, man.
All right, sir.
Have a blessed Sunday. Thank you for taking the time.
Of course, man.
See ya.